I'm not tired of winning yet. Are you tired of winning? Oh, it's going to be fun.
The golden age of America begins right now.
This is what victory feels like.
It's a beautiful thing to witness.
This moment is your moment. It belongs to you.
This is a shift.
I would just let all my real feelings out.
Promises made, promises kept. Promises made, promises kept.
We're watching a historic moment.
And then Greg Rastetter said, need more cowbell. And we do.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning.
You haven't even seen the beginning of the winning.
I'm not tired of the winning.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
Welcome. We're glad you're here. The whole Blaze staff is around the studio someplace. I'm going to introduce you to everybody in just a second, but we are really, truly at a turning point in our country, and it is happening faster than any of us could have even imagined. The economy is starting to show some signs of real problem. Is he going to address that tonight? How is he going to talk about tariffs and inflation? War. Is he going to say, today, the little guy, he came in, we made peace? I don't know. We'll see. The transparency of our government, we are changing everything, reducing the size of the government. But is Congress willing to do their job? They're saying now that they might be carrying egg cartons. Oh. Are they 4 years old? Honestly, it's like they're in the first grade. Mommy told us to bring egg cartons. We might show them while he's talking. And the Republicans. I hope that he tells the Republicans exactly what they have to do, because so far we have seen very little help for the president, and it's Congress's turn. They've got to do something about the economy. But we are on a MAGA mandate, and we've won a lot of battles, but the war is just beginning. And it is a fight for a small, limited government and truth. And freedom is happening not in Europe, shockingly. They're suddenly against freedom, it seems. Freedom of speech, it is growing here in America, and Blaze Media is right at the center of it. We are celebrating President Trump, our 47th president, by giving you $47 off a Blaze TV Plus subscription. We've never done that before. You can go right now to blaze47.com, use the promo code 47 right now, and get exclusive, unfiltered, behind-the-scenes content you're not going to see anywhere else. And we're all going to be chatting with you while he's speaking. We're going to zip our mouths, and we're going to go on to the Blaze app, and you can ask us questions. We want to see your comments. And we do have Steve Deace here. With Steve, it's like fireworks every time we're together. So who knows what he's going to say.
Somebody's getting fired tonight.
Last week, our very own Chris Bedford got access to the White House press pool, which was unbelievable. I remember when I started this thing, no president, left or right, would have let the Blaze Media in to the White House. And now, not only us, but all of the people that started because of us are now sitting there with press passes. He was in the cabinet meeting. Tonight, he joins us live with reports from the Capitol Rotunda, where Blaze is in position number 1.
That's awesome.
Amazing
that is
again.
So cool. It is amazing.
Tonight, we're taking your questions live, but only on Blaze TV. So make sure you subscribe now and join our community. It's a great family of freedom fighters as we dive deeper into what Trump's speech means for the battle ahead. Plus, stay until the very end of the stream. I have an amazing story that we're going to be breaking because of a whistleblower. We have an explosive NASA DEI whistleblower special. It is happening a week from tomorrow. Again, sign up, blaze47.com. Use the promo code 47 and join me to fight. Okay, let me introduce everybody that is here. On my left hand, which I think is for goats, isn't it? Right hand is for Allie and goats. Stu is here. We have Liz Wheeler. Thank you for coming. We have Allie Beth Stuckey.
Yep.
And don't anybody light the fuse. It's too early. We have to have the fireworks later from Steve Deace.
Good to see you guys.
Good to see you guys. So let's start at what we've seen in the last 47 days. What have you seen that you think is incredible and you'd like to see more of? I mean, I have been blown away at the speed of this government. It is operating now almost at the speed of AI. This is, I think, your first taste of what AI is going to be like, except a lot faster than Donald Trump has been moving. The Doge thing, I think we've made a lot of progress. Tonight, he has to talk about some things that really only the Congress can do. Ellie.
My most exciting thing, I think, is the deportations. And I had a hard time narrowing it down. But again, I was just hit so deeply by the Laken Riley story. I used to live in the town where she was murdered, and anything that equals fewer Laken Rileys, I'm excited about. They've been really aggressive about it. From what I hear, he is wanting to get even more aggressive about it. And they understand that. Tom Homan understands that. And no apologies, no backing down off of that. I'm glad to see it.
It's the lowest incoming rate at the border now since 1968.
Yes, I think it was something like 9,000 border interactions or attempted border crossings this year versus over 100,000 last year.
Yeah. It's pretty remarkable. Steve.
Well, just to finish Allie's point there, I mean, that indicates that we could have done this the entire time.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
The previous administration was just doing this on purpose.
Congress didn't do anything.
Yeah.
True.
To me, first of all, the overall rollout, I think it's the most impressive rollout of an administration in modern times. I think
Name
that
I don't mean to be, funny with this. I mean, name it outside of modern times.
Well, we didn't have mass media, so I mean, I don't. To me, it's unprecedented the level of agenda that they rolled out here with.
Yeah.
I think that they clearly now, the president, and I think clearly has a greater understanding of the Leviathan that he's up against than what he did before. They, instead of doing the traditional thing we've seen all of our lives, which is one issue a week for the first 100 days, a theme of the week, and the other side gets to deconstruct that and we all move on, just to literally hit them with an amphibious assault level of issues simultaneously, I thought was brilliant. They've been consistent in their messaging. I don't have really much faith in Congress at all. And that's why I think the most exciting thing for me is the personnel department heads.
Yes.
Because it's one thing we've learned just if you watch and follow the Blaze, you already knew this. But for much of America, the large patronage network, the swamp, deep state, whatever you want to call it, is just now getting to the surface with things like USAID and things of that nature. And I think that we're learning that much of how we're governed is done by people we did not elect, the bureaucratic state.
Yeah. It's all run
right
by the, I mean, it's...
And one thing I had to disabuse myself of, Glenn, is the traditional conservative notion of, well, we want to get rid of these organizations, we want lesser government. We're probably never getting rid of most of these organizations if we're being honest about that now. And so now we have to, I had to learn to evolve. It's really now about acquiring and wielding power. And that's where we're at now.
Well, I'd like to see them move on the REINS Act.
But
that would give them their power back.
We have the people now in charge of the agencies where the real power lies in the bureaucratic state.
Liz, I have been impressed by the things that he is. I mean, I talked about USAID, I think during the Obama administration, laying that out, going, hello, CIA and money laundering. That's amazing what we're cutting. What has been the best for you?
It is. I will build on what Steve said. Actually, if we journey back a couple of years, the first conversation that you and I ever had, Glenn, in person, we were geeking out about our mutual hatred of Woodrow Wilson. You might remember this.
Yeah.
And talking about the administrative state. And, you can call it the swamp, you can call it the deep state, the administrative state. It's these bloated federal government agencies staffed by, permanent bureaucrats in Washington that we didn't elect. We're all familiar with the concept. But when we talked about it, even, I think that might have been 2022, 2023, there wasn't a tangible, realistic way that we thought that this was going to be dismantled. It was something that we put on this pedestal, like if only we could dismantle the administrative state. That's what he's doing.
I know it is.
With Doge.
I know.
And,
He said to me, I talked to him over the summer where we were on the campaign trail, and I would bring things up like, are you really going to get, I mean, do you realize?
Yeah.
And every time he'd smile and he'd go, I got it. I know what I'm dealing with. I got it this time.
He does.
He
and
does.
It's even better because it's not just the fact that he's dismantling the administrative state, which he's doing at lightning speed. It's that he's actually harnessing the power of voters' voices to get it done.
Yes.
And you can use USAID as an example of that, where he's exposing each of these instances of corruption, knowing that it's going to be revolting to the voter. And so the voters then taking it to the media and to Congress, and just the public opinion is so against that corruption that they almost don't need to waste any political capital convincing the voter that this should be cut.
Yeah,
it's
very good.
Brilliant.
It is brilliant. And you watch, within 4 years, before we have the next president, you will see the power to Doge happening at the local level at your house. Mm-hmm. There won't be any secrets left. And that's
it's a
going to be
playbook
really
that he's
good.
writing.
Yeah. What's the best thing?
Well, I'd like to copy everyone else's answers, if I could.
We figured.
Steve,
We're used to that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Steve, I'd like to. Yours is a great. The rollout, I think, is really interesting. I think that is a much different approach. Something they've done even than what other conservative presidents have even attempted to promise. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like just that overwhelming rollout. They've overwhelmed the system. Something that the left seems to love to do, and using that tactic, I think, is really, really smart. I have the most hope for Doge. I still think it's a project that we don't know where it lands yet. I mean, I'm so skeptical of these efforts. Like, I really want them to succeed, but I've been so crushed for so long on them. We're seeing obvious good.
You have turned into a little black rain cloud.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah. We see good ground gained and a lot of promise there. I don't know that we know the end of that project yet, but we will see. And I think
they have to start producing real, true, gigantic cuts.
Yeah.
In hard places as well. We've got to get to $1 trillion of actual cuts.
And I still think that the number is not necessarily the way we should focus on the success of Doge. I think some of that money is going to be, congressionally promised and mandatory. So I think looking at the regulation side of that is going to be really where we find the long-term effects of this, and I really hope that's possible. But I think right now the biggest success is the border, and it's what he promised, it's what he ran on, it was what he said got him elected, and it's been incredibly successful. Just the tone change, change in tone, I think, does so much. He's doing that. He's backing it up with actual action. So is Tom Homan. And as you said, it's the lowest in 25 years. The second lowest was April 2017. So you could see when Donald Trump comes in and he says, don't come, they don't come. We did see in the first term it tick up a little bit, nowhere near what we saw with Biden. It's going to be a bit of a challenge, I think, to keep it this low, but he seems so laser focused on it. I think it's
so. I feel like Donald Trump has hit a speed bump. He hit one on Thursday with the rollout from the DOJ. That was the first mistake, I think, that somebody in the administration
The Epstein
made.
thing?
Yeah, the Epstein thing. Then I don't think Zelensky was a mistake. I think that actually worked to his favor.
100%.
So I don't think that was a mistake. Some people do. But the tariffs and the economy is going to be a real problem for him, which brings me back to Zelensky and the things I'd like to see tonight or moving forward. I would love it if he says, I got off the phone with the little man and peace in Ukraine. And it's real, and we're not spending any more money there. Most importantly, and I don't think people understand this, rare earth minerals. When he walked into office, the first, day, 2, and he's like, you know what, we should get Greenland. It's not because it's a great vacation resort. I mean, I don't want to build a house there. It's the rare earth minerals, the strategic placement, but the rare earth minerals. He is rebuilding, and this is what I want to hear him talk about tonight. He's rebuilding our industrial base. And at the same time, I think he's going to be remembered as the technology president that brought us into this whole new AI and brought the government with it. So I hope we hear some of that tonight.
Which explains kind of his special connection to Elon Musk, which I think a lot of people, they thought that they were estranged bedfellows. And still today, sometimes you're like, why do they have such a connection? I think there are a lot of reasons for that. Very layered relationship. But part of it is that you wouldn't think so for someone in his 80s, but he really understands, Trump does, technology and the need for AI and innovation.
He called me one day, like he must have been down and out of friends to call because, he called me.
I don't even call you.
Close to the beginning of the
I guess, but I'm sure I'm at the bottom of the list. He might do it upside down. But I'm in my office, and my assistant walks in and says, "The president is on the phone for you," and I'm like, "President of America?" I take it, "Mr. President, how can I help you, sir?" "Did you see it? Did you see the launch and how Elon caught those missiles?" He went on for maybe 10 minutes and talked to me about the physics of it, talked about the thrust, how many pounds of thrust were required. He likes to see people do the impossible.
What did you say?
I said, "I don't know." I don't know anything about the thrust.
I was scrolling my phone, so I missed the entire thing.
I love that he called you to talk to you about that.
Yeah, I mean, he was like a little kid. He really was. He was like, I'm calling and I'm not his buddy. Calling my buddy up because I just saw something amazing.
You are, I guess.
And it's like it was crazy. It was crazy.
Do you think this is how long lasting is the Trump Elon partnership?
I used to think it wouldn't last long because of their such strong personalities.
The media is trying to Yoko. This thing.
I think it lasts.
Yeah, I do
really?
too.
I think it lasts.
I do too. I felt the exact same way at the beginning. I was like, oh, it's just a matter of time. Elon makes one misstep, tweets something maybe. Trump doesn't like it. I don't think so. If you see their dynamic now, they have a very much aligned agenda, and Trump is not threatened at all by Elon because Elon understands what his role is. I think they're very aligned. I also think, going back to the rare earth minerals deal in Ukraine, it is like a boring sounding thing. Rare earth minerals in Ukraine, like who cares? But it's also Donald Trump understands the geopolitics of it, because if we as the United States don't control that, it's not even really about Russia. It's about China. It's about China and Russia going to China and allowing China access to that, and we can't allow China to get ahead of us in the AI race the way that they want to.
I did a video the other day, and I explained the 5 things that came out of that Zelensky weekend. And he's brilliant. I really think he is seeing and playing 5-dimensional chess, where last time we'd still be talking about release of the January 6th prisoners. Yeah. It would have just kept leaking and not ever ending.
So true.
He is moving us in a completely different direction. I know you have a problem with IVF with him, and also the funding of Planned Parenthood. Are you guys both on that? Are you at the same place?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that should be Doge next. It's not. It's both a matter of being pro-life, of course. Money's fungible. I don't want my taxpayer dollars or yours.
Does anybody remember? Are you old enough to remember when they said we will never spend tax dollars on abortions?
Oh yeah.
That used to be a thing.
It was called the Hyde Amendment.
Yeah. Joe Biden was so supportive of that.
Yeah. That's right.
Well, they're liars, of course. Easily explained, and they always have been.
Not a surprise.
They're liars, of course. But what's interesting about what I hope Elon Musk does when I hope, audits Planned Parenthood is it's not just a matter of taxpayer dollars being used to fund the biggest abortion business in our country, which is despicable and immoral and grotesque. It's also a matter of trafficking of aborted baby body parts and the violation of federal laws. We know are happening in Planned Parenthoods all across the country. We know this because David Daleiden, investigative journalist, exposed this in California and in Texas. And of course, Kamala Harris was the Attorney General of California at that time. So she raided his apartment, the journalist, and let her cronies at Planned Parenthood off free. I think she actually allowed them to help her craft talking points for how to respond to it.
And Xavier Becerra, he was the AG after her who continued to go after him, who ended up being the head of our HHS. So I don't want to hear any complaints about RFK.
Oh, totally. But the corruption that he's going to find when he audits Planned Parenthood will shock. I mean, it's not, you don't just have to be, a Bible Belt pro-lifer to be shocked. It's going to be something.
Well, they're the biggest distributor of cross-sex hormones, too.
They are.
And puberty blockers. And so
all you have to do is call on the phone. You don't have to even go in person, and they'll give them to you.
The points that Liz are raising are really important because this is why they can defund it without having to go through a congressional process. They're in violation of all kinds of various regulations if this stuff is true, which would allow and give the president the power at the agency level to defund them without having to go through a normal budget reconciliation process to do that. He could just bypass Congress to do it.
I really want to see the president force Congress to pass a budget. We haven't had one since 2008.
Well, here's the thing. The economy stuff, this actually goes back and ties into what happened last Thursday with the Epstein release. Because the thing that they've done a great job of with this rollout is controlling what you can control. And whenever you're president of the United States, you eventually run out of things that you can control. And eventually you are forced into a reactionary position of things that are beyond your control and how you govern them. And the reality is much of the economic issues we have right now are fundamental issues, long-standing issues. He's trying to dig us out of a hole very similar to the one that Reagan had to dig us out of after Carter.
And you have to remember, by 84, everything looked like it was going to hell.
I mean, I know that the younger generation thinks, because they've seen the video of the Iran hostages being released when Reagan took over, like it was morning in America again in January of 81, and that's not the case at all.
81 was rough.
Reagan's approval ratings were down. The Republicans got walloped in the 82 midterms. He was considered to be a doddering president and a fool. The supply side stuff was never going to work. He was doing a massive economic paradigm shift, and then about 6 months before the 84 election, and beginning with Grenada, and then all of a sudden, the whole momentum just suddenly switched and changed. And he ends up winning 49 states. In many respects, what Trump is trying to do economically right now is a paradigm shift. All right, it's a different kind of paradigm shift.
And a much bigger one than Reagan.
I agree it is a bigger one because we don't have an intact social compact anymore. We have two totally different countries
and we don't
sharing
have
the same flag.
We don't have industry anymore. We
don't
don't make anything.
Manufacturing-based, textile-based, none of that. And that's why it is so important. I mean, there's not going to be a lot of soaring organic economic news for much of this year and maybe into much of next year. They're going to have to contrive things like certain deals, like the Apple deal, a deal for the mineral deal in Ukraine, the organic stuff that people feel in terms of unemployment, wages, prices. That's going to take some time.
It is.
And that is going to require, therefore, I hate to call it content, but they're going to need to produce content as an administration that allows them to stay on offense. And one of the ways they can do that, we're draining the swamp. It's part of an all-encompassing attack against the Leviathan. We're telling you the truths that people didn't want to tell you for decades. And make sure that the voters stay personally invested. We're fighting for you on multiple fronts. And if you do that, they'll give you time to figure these other things out, all right? But don't yank their chains on Epstein list and everything of that nature.
Bad mistake.
Okay, do not do any of don't yell fire in a crowded theater, all right? If you're gonna throw something out there, we're gonna release the files. I don't want Anna Paulina Luna. She doesn't need to go visit the Texas Book Depository. Oliver Stone did that 35 years ago. We all have been there. That's great. What we can't do, we can travel to Dallas and do that ourselves. Anna, what we can't do is release the JFK files ourselves. We need you to do that for us, okay? And these are the things that they can control that are within their purview, so that gives them time to work out the things that they cannot control.
So that's what brings me to tariffs. The big thing you want to see corrected and tariffs, if he doesn't address the economy and tariffs tonight, I think that's a really bad mistake. He's got to be forward thinking on the economy and say, it's going to be rough, it's going to be tough, but here's why I'm doing it. But even I am looking at Mexico and Canada and saying, what are we doing again?
Yeah, I mean, that would be my qualified critique of the beginning of this, would be tariffs as a problem. And the qualification is just that, like, I didn't run for president, and nor did I win. So I don't get all my policies. I'm not a tariff guy. He is. He's been very clear about that. He ran on it. One of the things he's been most consistent since he's been in public life.
His favorite word.
Right, like this. Yeah, he's literally told you exactly that. So, I mean, you can go back to the 80s and hear him talking about tariffs. So, it's my, personal thing. I will say, one of the reasons why is I don't like tax increases. And, a tariff is a tax. Now, if he combines that, we were talking about this a little bit before the show, he combines that with getting rid of the income tax, I'm going to be a lot less sensitive on tariffs.
Yeah.
I do think that,
You didn't have a problem, though, on the tariffs that he is putting on Germany, where it's like, we're just leveling the playing field. We will give you the same tariff you give us. I think that's okay.
He's using the word reciprocal, which by technical standard, the technical dictionary definition of reciprocal, he is hitting that standard. For example, with Canada, we put on a 25% tariff on them, which, by the way, was a violation of the USMCA, which he himself designed, right? Okay, he thinks there's an important reason to do that, so he does that. They, as he called it, retaliated with a 25% tariff. Now, you could say that would be reciprocal. If we put the 25% tariff on them, you could say that. But he said it was retaliation. And then he said, we're going to put another 25% on them as a reciprocal tariff for the one they just did, which puts us at 50 and them at 25. Now, look, Donald Trump negotiates with this stuff. And I do fear the idea there's no end point, right? We could just escalate these things forever.
And maple syrup will not be on any American table.
And oil and gas will go up as well.
I know.
Again, it is not the biggest thing. I think when I look at this, they asked us before the show, well, what do you think? What's negative? And I would put that as a critique. There's been a lot of positives, though. I think we could sit here and do this entire show before this speech and just talk about positives and not have an issue. So
100%.
He is. I believe if he continues this pace and this direction, he is by far the greatest president of my lifetime. Maybe the best president since Lincoln. And I was looking at his cabinet the other day, when Blaze was in the cabinet meeting. So I'm watching everything, and I'm looking at that cabinet, and I'm like, look at the people around that table. This is, especially with Elon Musk at the table, this is similar to the way our founders founded the country. They had serious people, serious thinkers that were cutting edge at the time. I haven't seen that before.
And thankfully, even with the economy, you said it's going to be rough. All the Democrats have to do, all they've ever had to do, is not be insane. If they just wanted to focus on the economy, they could probably run away with the midterms, but they can't. We had all 45 Democrats in the Senate vote against the Protecting Women and Girls in Sports Act. Very simple. It's not popular. 33 of those 45 senators have daughters and granddaughters. They still couldn't muster the strength to do it. They can't not be insane. And so thankfully, if Trump highlights some of that tonight, which I think he will, I think we'll see some fieriness that we saw when he went against the Maine governor and said, see you in court. It's not popular in your state and we will clobber you. You will not have a career after this. I think we'll see some of that tonight. And he should. He should distract a little bit from the roughness of the tariffs and show how crazy they are.
I want him to address the economy. He's got to tell people it's going to get worse before it gets better. I
don't think he's going to say that yet, though.
Well, he
doesn't like to say. He doesn't like to say negative things.
No, he.
Plus, he's so focused, and I say this generally positively. This is one of the things I think it's funny to watch. But when you're talking about tariffs, you say I don't want my taxes to increase, and that's how those who oppose tariffs would describe tariffs. Like, okay, well, it's going to cause the price of your goods to go up, so it's essentially a tax. But he's not focused on that because in his mind, that's totally temporary. And the payoff, whether it's 6 months, a year, 5 years, is going to be so much more than the amount that those products temporarily increase. That's what he's focused on, and I think that's completely sincere for him. I don't think he's...
So do you believe the tariffs for Canada and Mexico is to get those industries to move back here in America?
Partially, yeah. He's very upfront about what he wants. When he's talking to Zelensky about you don't have the cards, Donald Trump almost always very openly says what cards he wants. Very openly. That's why it was so fun to watch that. He always walks away with these good deals, but in that moment, we actually saw how he made it happen, which was like the art of the deal, but come to life. Like, what a masterclass. And he's told Canada what he wants. He says, you take advantage of our economy to the tune of, what is it? $100 billion or something. He doesn't want them to do that anymore in XYZ industry. So as soon as they stop, the tariffs go away. And it's brought back here to the United States, those industries.
Well, we're going to see if any of these things come true tonight. We've just been speculating on what we would like to see. But it is just 10 seconds away from 8 o'clock in the East Coast. We're an hour away now from the president speaking, and we will be here for it. We want you to join us with the Blaze app. Just go to blaze.com. It's blaze47.com. And use the promo code 47 and join us, because we're all going to be on our tablets, and we're going to be talking to you. All right, let me now throw it over to Matthew Peterson. He's our Blaze News editor-in-chief, also the co-host, along with Jill Savage, of Blaze News. It used to be called Blaze News Tonight, but they've changed it to Blaze News The Mandate, because there is a mandate. Let me go to Matt and Jill. Hi, guys.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. So we had an interesting conversation, Matt. Why don't you take us through some of the things you were saying while we were out of the studios? We were in the hallway and we were all sitting around talking.
Sure. Well, one of the most incredible things that's gone on is I think in my history of being in politics is this overwhelming mandate by which President Trump swept into office and brought in the kind of people, when you say the biggest win, the kind of people with organization, discipline, and drive, who understand, have experience, are intelligent and accomplished, and are ready to do the job. These are people who are throughout the administration who want to go and they want to accomplish the mandate. And what is the mandate? Well, the mandate, as you know, is not simply defeating the Democrats, right? The mandate is not simply defeating this weird woke religion that arose and became tyrannical throughout America and took over all its institutions in the last 10 years. The mandate ultimately is about defeating the fourth unconstitutional branch of government, and that is the administrative state. And I think that is front and center what President Trump is trying to do. And the most exciting thing, the biggest win so far, is that he's bringing in people who understand that and have the political will and drive to actually accomplish what no Republican president has accomplished post-World War II, which is to roll that thing back.
Let me ask Jill and Matthew, I'd like to hear, how long does he have this mandate? He has done so much. And when you look at DOJ, the ratings for both Republicans and Democrats, independents, it is popular with the people. His mandate seems to be getting stronger on some things. How long does this mandate go?
It feels like, to me, it's going to be a 2-year run where you can go through, because this is the time that we're going to have the Congress that we have right now. So if you go through and you can get a couple wins and gain that momentum, which he clearly has on his side right now, I look at it and just say, okay, he needs to have this at a much longer rate of time if we're going to make substantive differences there in Washington, D.C. But right now, you have to do as much as you can in this short period of time. And I look at this, if it's ever going to happen, now is the time. And you said we made the change from Blaze News Tonight to Blaze News The Mandate. And we just saw the excitement around Donald Trump. And we saw Elon Musk out there on the campaign trail with him, Glenn. And he went through and said, you know what? There are so many young people right now who are engaged in what's happening in government that have never been this excited and this into what is happening right now. And you look at this.
It reminds me of the early Reagan days. This is exactly what it felt like.
We would go through on our show and we would have all of the confirmations right now that we see to fill up Trump's cabinet. And I was jokingly calling it confirmation hearing season, because this is something that wasn't even presented on nightly news broadcasts during the Biden administration. You didn't care who was going to be in one position or another in Biden's cabinet. And here now in Trump's cabinet, it's every day. Everybody's talking about every single move that they're making. And this is such a unique time and place. So I look at it and just say the excitement is absolutely there. And Matthew, right now, for the next 2 years at least, this is what we have.
This is the most engaged audience in America, by the way. The most engaged group. You know how consultants come in and talk about demography, right? I mean, the most engaged group in America right now are the people who just voted for Trump in the greatest political comeback in American history, who want to see the mandate implemented.
Yeah, and they're not. It's funny because I've not seen Trump supporters show me, wait a minute, a turnaround as fast as I did on Thursday with Pam Bondi. I heard people who were the day before saying all great stuff, I can't wait. They want this stuff to be done, and immediately so many in our own audience were like, I love him, but is this going to be this way again? Are we going to do the same thing as everybody else? It's the first time that I saw that.
Well, I mean, don't you think? I mean, the people have been leading for a while. I mean,
yes.
the people have been leading for a while. Donald Trump was he just entirely repudiated the Republican Party, right? He was the answer to the Republican Party for people who were upset with it, like you, like me, and like so many others over the years. So now that he's finally come in after what they did to him, and someone like Pam Bondi comes in, I think she meant well, but she didn't really deliver on this, this Epstein file thing. No one in the audience, no one in the base is going to accept that any longer.
No.
They are smart, they know what they want, and they want to see, again, the mandate of the people actually implemented. That is the struggle, and it's a high bar for the President Trump and the amazing cabinet he's assembled, because this isn't about normal politics as usual. This is really about, can you radically reform the American form of government and return it back to something like the constitutional form of government?
I will tell you that I think he will seal the deal with his supporters when you see somebody important, no, it doesn't matter which side of the aisle, important, go to jail.
Yes.
When you see the DOJ start going after important, connected people, don't care what the crime is, but it has to be a legitimate crime that everybody will look at and go, holy cow. When when Pam Bondi goes after those people, or at least that one, I think you'll see a relaxing almost of people that are still maybe a little skeptical. And like Stu, he believes in the president, he likes what he's doing, but he's like, I've been burned so many times, I'm not going to get excited.
That's me. Well, look, that's understandable. That was me. I still have, a plaque in my heart, black-pilled plaque that's slowly breaking up as every day goes by, as I watch the golden age unfold. And I think this is very serious. I think Steve Deace agrees as well. The mark of seriousness with this administration is it's not about retribution, by the way. This is about justice. Are we going to reestablish justice and get rid of the weaponization of government? And in order to do that, after what we've been through over the last 8 years, you have to punish people. I absolutely agree. So, there's this meme going around the internet now, and you see Elon Musk and others talk about it, and it's a vulgar phrase, I have to admit, Glenn. It's F around and find out. Mm-hmm. F-A-F-O, right? Mm-hmm. F around and find out. And the meme right now is, you already F-A'd, right? You already F'd around, and then there's F-O for find out. And Musk and others are pointing to the find part before the out and saying, you are here. And I certainly hope that that's where we are, because I think that the base, the audience, whatever you want to call it, I think really 60% plus of the needs to see that, and they know you don't have to go, do something crazy and retribution and arrest everybody, but you have to find key people who did wrongdoing and show that the Department of Justice, that justice itself is still the basis of the rule of law in America.
I think there were a lot of people that wanted Hillary Clinton to go to jail when he kept saying, lock her up. They really wanted her to go. I was one of them. I want her to go to jail because right?
Oh, yeah. One of the biggest mistakes of his first term.
Yeah.
Wasn't putting her in jail.
But we don't do that in America. But we need to, because that corruption is everywhere. What?
Let's do it and be legends.
Yeah.
Yes.
People always say that stuff like that is unprecedented. I'm like, great. Yeah, let's start now.
I think this is what's so exciting about this president is it is a new chapter. It might even be a new book.
Yeah.
It's still the old principles, but it's as close as I never thought we'd get this close. I've always said you got to unplug it and plug it back in, reset it to factory settings. I never thought we could do that.
Yeah.
He just might. I mean, we just had our Secretary of Education confirmed.
Yes.
Her mandate from Trump is shut it down.
Right. You know, we were talking about Reagan earlier, and I think about that phrase that he said that the closest thing to eternal life on earth is a government program. And we are disrupting that. Trump is disrupting that right now. He is ending what has just been kind of this assumed eternal life of all of these programs and institutions. We've never gotten as far as the F in FOFO. And I don't, F around and find out. I think we've just seen the F and the A, and now we're as close to the out as we possibly can. Reagan also said that I think he said, we inspired American patriotism, but we failed to institutionalize it. So the out part of the FOFO is institutionalizing the patriotism that has been replaced with this ugly corruption that is now so endemic in our federal government.
And he's taken the first thing he did was take on USAID.
Yeah.
When you take on USAID, you are taking on the deepest of the deep state. You're taking on the CIA.
Can I follow up on what Matt said a minute ago, if you don't mind, though? I used this analogy on Matt and Jill's show the other day. Let me use it here with you guys. Trump in this administration needs to reenact the pilot scene of Happy Days. And in the pilot scene of Happy Days, Fonzie asks, would you like to join me in my office? Right, the men's room, right? And someone effed around. They went into the men's room and they found out. For the next 10 years of episodes, whenever Fonzie said, in every episode he asked somebody, would you like to step, when they got out of line, would you like to step into my office? And from every episode after the pilot episode, every dude that he asked that of was like, we're good. Example's been made.
Right.
An example must be made. There must be someone with shackles and orange jumpsuits. That is not just an engagement farm statement. That is legit. There must be an example made. There's been too much corruption, too much criminality, too much grift, too much distrust. People need to see that someone is actually held accountable for their actions. That must happen. They need to figure out who that example's going to be. And that example must be made. It is not enough to just accept the resignation of the FBI director from the Southern District of New York.
Yes.
He has committed an act of obstruction of justice. He specifically...
I think it's treason.
Of course it is. Of course. What is leaving an open border for 4 years? What is that? How's that not a treasonous act? There must be somebody has to face the consequences. You can't bust them all. Right? And we probably can't afford that as a country anyway. But strategically, the administration must figure out who's the example, right? And an example that is an Doge, what is so politically brilliant about it is, listen, a lot of my friends, I'm an old school conservative. I'm like, we're not fixing this thing until we do something about the entitlements, because that's where most of the money is being spent. But the truth is, if the American people aren't going to let you cut a patronage grift system, they're never going to let you touch the entitlements.
Yes.
And that's the beauty of what Doge is doing. It's showing, hey, there are some things we can actually cut and get rid of that are so corrupt. We all acknowledge this. Let's start, at the bottom and we'll work our way up. Same thing needs to happen here in terms of punishment and restoration of trust and justice. Make an example out of somebody, literally, specifically, don't react. Pick someone that we all know the American people are like, that fool needs to be buried in a hole, and we throw away the hole. And then do it and make an example so that from now on, when the threat is made, there actually has been a proof of concept. They might just follow through.
If he LeBron James, I'm throwing the name out there.
if he would do that, you know what that is? That's him saying, I'm not going to let you in on the border, and I'm going to scoop you up, and I'm going to take you right back, and I'm going to send you home. And that all you have to do is make an example of it, and nobody's coming to the border again. We have this arrogant administrative level that doesn't seem to answer to anybody. They don't want to answer to anybody, who have enabled all of this graft, and it is unbelievable. I mean, the Stacey Abrams thing, $2 billion going to her. They raised $100.
$100.
$100, yeah. And Biden says, I'll put $2 billion.
I'll raise you $2 billion.
It's
Do you know what's nuts about that story? If you'll forgive the interruption, do you know who is the administrator of giving that money to her? Do you know who's in charge of giving John Podesta?
Perfect.
Do you know John Podesta's role in Ukraine?
Vaguely.
Oh, yeah. It's the same. I found this when I was doing the chalkboards years ago. It's the same.
It's the same people.
It's the same people.
It's
That's why an example needs to be
people.
made.
Yes.
An example must be made of somebody. And if a guy who is not going to face the will of the people ever again, it just won the first election since 1984, or 1980, where every state voted further to the right than it did in the previous election. All right. So he has a mandate. We even have a show called The Mandate. We were just talking to those guys. He doesn't have to face the voters ever again. All right. And dude, they tried to put him in prison with 94 felony indictments, and then they tried to kill him on live television. If we cannot get that guy to say, an example needs to be made, all right? I need to take my belt off. Someone needs to trip behind the woodshed. If we can't get that guy to do it, I don't know when would be the political moment where it would actually be safe for it to happen before it's too late.
Let me ask you, I think, I truly believe that is his intent. But think of everything that has happened in the last 40 days. 40. I have a hard time keeping up with it, and I'm not in the midst of it. Donald Trump he's been asked and answered over like 1,500 questions, more than any president in this amount of time by far, like 10 times as much. He's constantly on camera. He is constantly having big meetings at the White House, really significant weighted meetings. And he's also following all of these things. The guy's 80, and he's wearing me out, and I'm sitting at home just watching him.
Right.
He has what came to me for the first time when I saw Pam Bondi is she's not in lockstep. She's just not in lockstep because everything. Have you noticed the cabinet? They'll move. And they'll kind of move together, and they're all kind of doing the same thing, and they're all at the same place. I thought we were getting another phase from the cabinets, and she hadn't, I don't think she even coordinated that. I mean, she says she did, but with Kash Patel? Do you think that was coordinated with Kash Patel? I don't think so.
No. If you look at Pam Bondi's history in the Republican Party, how to put this delicately?
Just say it.
I'm not any good at that, so I won't. It's not typically rolling with people like us. And there is a wing of Republican politicians in the last few years who have figured out if I say a few magic phrases where Donald Trump is concerned, everyone's going to forget everything I did prior to 2015.
And you think that's what she did, and that's why she was chosen?
And I think that she got caught, frankly, playing a role that maybe she doesn't sincerely understand, believe in, and it got way over her skis and understood that this is not performative art. People are taking this very seriously.
Let me go to Matt. Yeah, go ahead, jump in.
Just to double over on what Steve is saying. Certainly multiple sources in Washington, D.C. who really should know, and I believe there are already public articles about this, have said, the White House had nothing to do with this. Like this was all DOJ, basically all Pam Bondi putting all this stuff out in the way that happened. So you have multiple sources saying DOJ did this. And so that just proves Steve's point that this really just came from Bondi sort of playing a 2015 playbook.
But to go through and use a sports term, you have to say this is an unforced error, Glenn. When you look at it, she could have gone through, she could have had step by step. But remember what RFK Jr. was saying when he was going through the confirmation process, because a lot of people had questions about RFK and if he was actually going to follow what Trump wanted him to do. And he said, it's not about what I want. This is not my agenda. I am going to follow Donald Trump's agenda. And that's something that Pam Bondi needs to learn, is that you can't go out, you can't go rogue, you can't go off doing your own thing. You have to play within this sandbox right now that he has provided you.
So is it just me? Because I feel like you guys are saying two things. One, she blew it. Two, she wanted to blow it. She's not going to follow that way.
I wouldn't say she wanted to blow it. I think sometimes you suck at things when you are playing a part maybe you really don't understand or believe in.
But she's the key. That is the position.
And I will give her credit because also the previous Republican playbook would have been just to forget Thursday ever happened, move on. It's not like we don't have 75 other crises that are legitimate for us to focus on. Yet she's back out there again doing interviews saying, hey, no, I'm going to pursue this. We got the resignation of the guy. So, hey, you know what? I'm a born again. I'm a sucker for a redemption arc. I'll give her a chance to prove herself. But I think one thing that she could do to show her sincerity, and I said this on my show today, in any transaction, sometimes you put money in escrow or you give a down payment. It's a good faith gesture for the other side to see that you absolutely plan on going to the end of this, right? Just give us one name then. Really, I mean, Ghislaine Maxwell's in prison for life for human trafficking. Well, you cannot have a human trafficker without human traffickee.
Yes.
All right, so she can't be in there for human trafficking to nobody. All right, so just give us one confirmed name. It can even be somebody we already probably know and suspect, like a Prince Andrew, for example, that they don't have jurisdiction to prosecute as a foreign citizen, but give us one name, something that demonstrates that she is going to follow through on this time. It's the department she oversees. The DOJ that put Ghislaine Maxwell in prison for life. It's her department that did that. All right. So the idea that she has complete and total jurisdiction, give us one name. Just to show a nice down payment, I'm going to follow through on this.
That's I think that's a really good idea. I should have known. Remember, we were on the air and she was saying it's going to come out, it's going to come out, it's going to come out. And it wasn't allowed to come out until the Prime Minister of England left. And what I thought at the time was, holy cow, it may come out. They don't want this to come out while the Prime Minister of England, Prince Andrew. But I actually think maybe it's the opposite of that. I think it is she was not coordinated at all with the White House. And the White House said, you're doing what today? Well, at least wait until the prime minister, because she was taking the news away from what he wanted the news to be, knowing that he was going to meet with Zelensky.
I think you'll notice who is very quiet when it comes to this story. The mainstream.
Kash Patel?
He is, but for very different reasons than those who I'm about to bring your attention to. The mainstream media is extremely quiet about this story. They're doing almost nothing besides cursory coverage of this story. And the reason why they're being very quiet about this is because they were successful in distracting the American people who are very hungry for corruption to be exposed. They're distracting the American people with, I don't want to say a silly story. I understand why people are frustrated about what happened on Thursday. Believe me, I'm also frustrated about what happened on Thursday, to put it lightly. But they're distracting with that conversation from a story that is most likely as big as, if not bigger than, the Russia collusion hoax.
Oh, yeah.
The story was, and when I posted this on Thursday afternoon, the last time I checked, 57 million people had read this. People care about the real story. The real story is there are deep state agents in the FBI, specifically in the Southern District of New York. And no, it is not just there. It's not just there, but it's also not just the person at the top who was forced to resign. It's much deeper than that, who are defying the President of the United States, obstructing the Attorney General, and trying to subvert the will of the American voter.
I said
that is a story.
Oh, yeah.
That we should not get distracted from.
I will tell you that on Friday, I said to Stu, when he came in and I was preparing the show and he sat down and he's like, so what crazy thing are we doing today? And I said, I'm going to use a word in the constitutional context that I have never used in constitutional context. I might have just spouted it out, and then said, well, not really. But I've never actually called for a trial of treason, because that is That's the only thing lined out in the Constitution, and it is extraordinarily serious. And I have to tell you, on Friday, and I still believe it today, I said, if what Pam Bondi said is true, then why isn't Pam and the FBI and the DOJ walking up, putting every single person in the FBI in handcuffs and then sorting it out? Who did what? But they cannot be with the files of any case. They have all the big cases, you know. So they're sitting there with the cases. You accept the resignation. This was treason. This was treason. You cannot have, it was rebellion. It was one part of an agency trying to thwart and stop the other part of the agency when the other part is the command. It's the head of that. That's rebellion. That's revolution. That is treason.
But it makes it feel unserious, almost that we've forgotten what we're really talking about. We are talking about minor victims being raped and trafficked. We're talking about the worst crimes against humanity committed by presumably some of the most powerful people in the world. And when she fails to take that kind of action, it seems that, well, is this just a meme? Is this just something that she was doing as a publicity stunt? Because that takes away from the severity of what actually occurred.
Amen.
Let me change subjects a bit, and I want to stay with you, Allie. I heard you the other day say the biggest threat is mushy Christians.
Yes.
What does that mean?
So when you talked about USAID and how difficult it is to dismantle something like that, and we were talking about also how popular all of the Doge cuts are in general. Well, my feed, X likes to feed me the most annoying Christians because they know it's going to trigger me and I'm going to respond and it gives me content for my show. So in a way, I'm kind of grateful for it. But I see so many complainers about Doge and what's going on. Well, this program was supposed to feed these children.
But it doesn't.
People. Exactly. And so it's all going back to what Thomas Sowell said, is that progressives always judge policies or programs by their stated intentions, never by their results, which makes the PR for conservatives a lot harder and easier for them. So I see a lot of evangelicals saying, well, this program was supposed to do that or that or that. So there needs to be a strategy to combat that and go on offense and to say, this is what we are positively doing. We're not just stopping that, we're starting this.
But you can't, look, I had a faith leader of mine who at one point was the head of Goldman Sachs. I grew up in a poor family. We didn't give charity. We didn't have the money. We received charity more than we would give it. So when I first was successful, I went to a guy who I respected in money and faith. And I said, I don't know how to give. And I want to be responsible. And he said, you have to look at every dollar as sacred. It doesn't belong to you. Even though you're giving it away, it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the Lord. So you've got to get that dollar to the closest thing that you can, whatever you're trying. I want somebody to water that plant. I got to find, how can I take that? So the most of that dollar, if not all of it, is going to get somebody to water the plant. He said, that is your duty and responsibility. I can't think of anything that is more sacred than tithing money and the government, taxation. You're taking that from me. You are taking this from families who are struggling and barely making it. I think every single dollar, I don't care about the charity. I want all of it cleaned out. You can start again, but not with these people. If you weren't calling it out and you weren't blowing the whistle, you're part of it. And I don't know anybody that was really blowing the whistle on this, that was in that room and in that position all the time. They need to be fired. Start over.
And Christians have gotten way too comfortable with outsourcing our compassion to the government. And we've very much confused our command by Jesus to care for the poor and the vulnerable. And we give that responsibility to the government, who has never done it well.
So I had a lady call me.
It doesn't change you, right? Like, I mean, just handing it over to the government doesn't do anything for you or your relationship.
It's not charity if you're forced to do it. If they say, give me your money or you're going to jail, that's not generosity.
There's one word that describes tithing with other people's money. You know what it is? Theft.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
I had a lady call in today. She's blind. I think she was 60. And she watches and listens to the show, and she's like, I don't have money. What happens if things collapse? The government, they're cutting all of these things. What happens? And I said, you have to find a faith community. You have to find a church or some group of people that care about their neighbors, because the government, believe me, as somebody who was there after the hurricanes, they don't care. They don't care. You're going to be left behind if you don't count on your neighbors and you're not part of a faith community that actually loves you and you love them.
And let us make sure, those of us who are in a faith community, that we are actively looking out for those who might need help.
Exactly right. The biggest threat, Stu, you say, is an economic downturn.
Yeah, I think that's a real concern. And because you only have so much runway. You were just talking about kind of like these stories where people have these anecdotal stories. And that's not how you make policy. You don't make policy based on anecdotal stories. But when they start to build up, especially among your own people, it can have an effect on you. Give you an example. A friend of mine, going back to the tariffs thing for a second, a friend of mine works for a company that imports like specialty parts for oil and gas. Guy's a big Trump supporter, enthusiastically voted for Trump. And he's working on one of Trump's core missions, which is, making us energy independent, making, drill baby drill. He's in the middle of that world. And, for 4 years, he's pursued one large company to try to get these parts delivered to America. Finally, successfully gets that contract and signs them up for a specific price for each one of these 100,000 units. Those were being manufactured in a place where he has a long-term contract. And now, because of the tariffs, the cost of those items are going up 20%. So he has to kind of make a decision as to whether he takes a loss on this over a multiple-year contract or tries to renegotiate with the company, which means it goes out for bid and all these other things happen, which are bad for him. He's a Trump supporter. He understands what he's trying to do. He's not an anti-tariff guy, but it's affecting his personal life. And I've had several of these types of stories. People like another friend of mine got a job in the DOD. His son got the job in the DOD. Again, big Trump supporter. His son voted for Trump, big Trump supporter. One of the reasons he went into the government was because he was so inspired by Donald Trump. He got in there, and now, even though I think he's a pretty good, would be a really good employee, would be a really good member of Trump's army, right? He is also a probationary employee. He's just started. So he's immediately on the chopping block, not because of anything he did wrong, but because they're coming in to do that. Now, I am a guy who ideologically really wants the Doge thing to happen. Yeah. And I believe that, and I think it should happen, and I understand those types of things will build up. But if you hit enough people in that way where they're feeling it themselves, if the economy goes down, if unemployment goes up, if these things start happening, the runway gets shorter and shorter to do all the exciting things we all want to happen, because he will start to lose public support for people who aren't hardcore Trump people or aren't ideologically aligned with his goals. So it's a danger. It's at least something you have to look out for.
I think
I've got to go to Capitol Hill. I want to go to Chris Bedford. He is our senior editor for politics and our Washington correspondent. He's in position number 1 in Washington, D.C. It's weird that we're not treated like pariahs anymore, Chris. What are you hearing? Any rumbling of anything that is big that's going to happen tonight?
I've been calling senior White House staff. Lips are really tight. People are really tight-lipped right now. But I have been promised that there's going to be a number of exciting things coming down the pipeline from people who are in the White House right now, who are working late, people who are in the Capitol. That's what the expectation is. And I think Democrats are going to try and do some theater here. They're all the women, for example, are dressed in blue. You see them streaming past in the hallways with their whole staffs and their guests and their visitors coming through to get ready for the speech, to get those good seats where they can be on camera. They've been coming through for the last 2 hours.
Why are they wearing blue?
And President Trump has a couple.
Wait, why
I'm
are
not
they
exactly sure why they're wearing blue.
Okay.
They like to match. They like to stand
so
out.
Stupid.
Previously,
there's white.
You've seen them in white before. As if they were the widows of Pinochet or something. These are some kind of theatrics they do. But it hasn't been working. It hasn't been really clicking this round. And it's going to stand in, I think, stark comparison to the agenda that the president's attempting to lay out, which is already in it's 44 days today that he's been in office. He's already in competition with Franklin Delano Roosevelt for the most energetic and active early presidency of the last 100 years. And that level of accomplishment next to noisemakers, theaters, and signs is not going to be a very strong look for Democrats, no matter how well they're matching or what color they're wearing.
What do you think he must hit out of the park tonight?
Well, there's a couple things. I guess on the rhetorical side, he needs to lay out how this is serving the American people. Now, Donald Trump's a great orator. Not only is he good as like kind of a stand-up person who can ad-lib for long periods of time, but when he gets serious, remember his speech in Normandy, when he gets serious, it's a brilliant oration. It's something that he delivers memorable lines that people can hold on to. We saw that at his inauguration address, both his first and his second. But this one's going to be, I've heard, a positive, more uplifting message about promises that are being delivered on. And there's an underlying thing that's actually really important to this White House. It's a little bit more in the weeds, which is that there's a lot of bickering back and forth between conservative and moderate Republicans, leadership. Of course, Democrats are out to lunch. But this government shuts down a week from Friday. And people say that a lot of these things are Biden's spending prerogatives, but Biden is not in charge anymore. Donald Trump's in charge. People like Russ Vought are in there trying to decide where the money actually does get spent. These are his programs. So trying to make sure he can get the House of Representatives and the Senate in line with funding his government and making sure that this momentum doesn't end is major on his list. Our own Rebecca Zelko, Blaze News reporter, scooped today that not only was Russ Vought here on Monday talking to the House Freedom Caucus, but the president is coming tomorrow to meet with House conservatives to try and make sure that that is something in line. So he's going to be trying to give a soaring, more unifying message to his administration, which has been polling remarkably well between Republicans, independents, and even doing well to the point with Democrats where some of them don't even know where to attack him anymore. But on the technical side, he's really going to need to make sure that everyone in the Republican Party is in line with what he wants to do to keep his lights on.
I think he must take on those Democrats and say, it is time for you now to do things. I thank you for getting the cabinet done, but that's constitutional. You got to do that. You have got to pass the tax cuts and the regulations. I would, again, love to see the REINS Act passed. But is he going to be sharp with the Republicans, do you think? Because he has the mandate to do it and say, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you.
I think it'll be more of an announcement of a new Republican Party, less than a stick towards his own party on the speech tonight. That stick could come later, and it could come from people like Vice President J.D. Vance, who's played a really strong role as enforcer and as the guy who hands out carrots in the U.S. Senate and the House of Representatives. He's going to try and paint to these Republicans something that I think is actually pretty well established, that he's no longer an insurgent like he was in 2017. That this is a Republican Party that has been shaped by his ideas, that is powered and voted for by the American people. They have now endorsed a mature MAGA idea as opposed to just endorsing an incumbent or saying, yes, we want change, which is what 2016 was. Now they're saying, we know what you stand for. We've read what you stand for. We've seen you for 4 years. That's what we want. And to Democrats, the message is going to be difficult for them to defend. And you notice this, Democrats aren't even really defending things on the actual substance these days. You don't hear them out there talking about transgender rights or illegal immigrants' rights. You hear them talking about policy and different process arguments. Those are what they're doing in the court filings. They're not standing on the positions that have caused them so much trouble anymore.
Well, they
they're
did
barely
this
even
week.
arguing for foreign aid. A lot of their stuff is trying to ham them up just on, you broke the rules. You're not allowed to do it that way.
Let me play something. This came out today. They obviously are on the same page. I want to show you. What is it up to, Ricky? 22, 23? 23 Democrats released something today, and I want you to watch and see what they're doing, all coordinated. Watch.
When I win, I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
That ain't true. That's what you just heard. Since day one of Donald Trump's presidency, prices are not down, they're up. Inflation is getting worse, not better. The prices of grocery, gas, housing, eggs, of essentials, it's not getting better, it's getting worse.
Okay.
Meanwhile,
So,
Donald
stop.
Trump has...
Let me show you the screen of, I don't know how many of them now do we have like that. Look at that. There's 23 of them, and they are parroting exactly the same. I don't know, is that a good thing, Chris, or a bad thing for the Democrats?
Well, on one side, you're happy if you're in comms that people stayed on message, but this just shows you how different it is from 2017. I mean, 2017's, everyone seemed to know what to do. My neighbors all across D.C. had their flags out, their signs out, they had bumper stickers, they were different. The streets in the cities were filled. There were these organic things where people were getting together and screaming at the sun god or whatever the heck they worship to try and get over this Donald Trump thing. Now they don't. They don't have that organic messaging at all. They have to coordinate everything. And this, much more than some kind of actual mass movement like they were hoping for, this is a glimpse into the Matrix. This is Agent Smith coming out against Neo. You're looking right now at that video, those 23 congressmen and senators, is the simulation laid bare.
It's amazing. Chris, we'll talk to you later. Thank you so much. Steve, did you want to follow that up?
Yeah, I want to go back to what you said. Chris does a great job, by the way, but I want to go back to what Stu was talking about with the economy, because we are in the midst of and in the need for a paradigm shift. But the truth of the matter, as a guy that follows polls and has done a lot of polling, is there is no significant constituency in America for cutting spending. There isn't. That constituency outside of this room,
including Speaker Mike Johnson.
Yeah, there is no winning constituency of the American people that at this stage right now want a significant change in the size and scope of government to the tune of what we're talking about. And so if
that's why I think Doge is so important.
I agree, but because
they think that it's doing good.
Agreed. But we also cannot wait for that transition to take place, or we're going to have a recession. So you have two options here. We'll throw that. The one option is to seriously do something about spending that the American people don't want to do and don't have a constituency for, and politically would go nowhere. All right. So then what is your other option? Your other option then is to try to use the tools before you as a president to try to better the leverage and the amount of stake that we have in various other deals to try to create economic growth, spur growth to kind of outgrow the potential of a recession. All right. We cannot meaningfully bring down inflation without cutting government spending. On the other hand, people don't want a lot of meaningful cuts in government spending. So then what can we do? Can we get richer? Can we grow our commodities? Can we grow our access to things within the Panama Canal, Greenland, mineral deals in the Ukraine? What things could we then create to grow the pie? If there's not, we either have to shrink the pie or grow the pie. Those are the options.
So I think that, and he's doing a great job. You remember, does anybody remember the total of the Obama Reconstruction Act or whatever that thing was called?
$787 billion.
$787 billion.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Right off the top of your head.
Right, and I remember that number.
Friends in high schools.
Because, I remember that number. He remembers that number because when that number came out, we were like, that's almost $1 trillion. We had not heard of anyone spending that.
Yeah. Those were the days.
Yeah, those were the days. That is almost the number. I think it's 780 that I can confirm. He says it's over $1 trillion, and it might be, but the stuff that we know, we have paper and we can actually track, it's like $780 billion that Donald Trump has gotten from other corporations and other countries to come back in and build. That's a real, a reinvigoration and a reconstruction act.
But that is basically trying to take us back to where things were on March 15th of 2020.
Yeah.
All right, before all the COVID lockdowns and spending and everything else that we've seen take place. We're trying to reset the clock back to that. And we're trying to get to pre-COVID levels of spending, which are still astronomical numbers that most people could not even begin to calculate.
All right, I want to go to Jill over at the Blaze TV set. If you're a Blaze TV Plus subscriber, you can ask us questions. We're all going to be on our devices here in a few minutes when he begins to speak, and we're going to let everybody watch it, but we're going to be talking to you and reading what you have to say. Jill, are we already getting people in and asking questions? Or
yeah, we are. We absolutely are. And you know we're getting close because you just saw J.D. Vance there on the screen making his way in there for Congress. And so Trump is going to be just, about 15 minutes away. But before we do that, if you want to join the conversation, go ahead and join us as a Blaze TV subscriber. Go to blaze47.com. You can use the code 47 for $47 off. But we do this every day here on The Mandate with Matthew Peterson and I, that we take everybody's questions here. So let's go ahead and see what people are out there are saying is the best win that Donald Trump has had so far. So Kimberly Bissell starts us off, and she says the border. And Kimberly, we could not agree anymore right here, because Representative Brandon Gill was also one of those members of Congress that you just saw there on your screen. And we've had him on the show, Matthew, and he might be one of my favorite young members of Congress, because when we had him on, he was going out there and saying, how am I going to measure my success in the first 2 years of my term? And Matthew, what did he say?
I mean, here's the youngest Republican member of Congress. And we asked him this question. We asked him, how are you going to measure your success given that Congress is broken? Given that Congress is, how are you going to measure that at all? And he said, it's going to be by how many people we deport back who have illegally come into this country. Like, that's not your grandfather's Republican Party. This guy is ferocious, and he understands what she's saying, what Kimberly is saying about the border. We just lived through an insane period where we had to explain that countries have borders, and our audience member Kimberly understands that.
Yes. Mikey joins in on the conversation. What is Trump's best win so far? He says taking out the CIA front of USAID and shutting down the border have been my favorite so far. And they're huge, huge victories that within the first 6 weeks of the administration, I didn't think that we would be having such huge levels of conversation that we could go through and dismantle this amount already.
Yeah, it was unbelievable how they picked this first, and they picked it purposely. This wasn't a joke. Digital Services, what became Doge, they picked USAID because it is such a great example of how people's money is mismanaged and used to propagandize the rest of the country. And everyone now knows the left was using it.
Yeah, mixed up 172 rounds out our answers for Trump's biggest win so far. Gulf of America. Matthew Peterson, it turns out sometimes you can just do things.
You can just do things. I mean, I love the Mount McKinley. McKinley was a great president. I mean, this is, the left understands, Glenn has been talking about this for a long time. I mean, the left understands the power of language and naming things. And to me, this just felt like, oh no, we're going to go back and we have the power to rename everything, back to something that's commonsensical. And it's remarkable. It's not just a joke. It is funny to me, but it's real.
Yeah, so join us here at Blaze and become a subscriber for blaze47.com, because we're going to be answering all your questions after Trump's speech as well. So this is going to go on all night. We'll be in there chatting with you guys. But Glenn, I look at this and it's the renewal of the American dream. That's the topic tonight. That's what is centered around this speech for Donald Trump. And I thought that was such an important message that he would go through on the campaign trail and tell people that the American dream is possible once again, because some people, we all need a little bit of hope in our lives at this point, Glenn. It's been a long 4 years of Joe Biden, and now we're actually going to have a president that can go out there and give at least a 60-minute speech.
They thank you very much, Jill. She just said it's been a long 4 years, and the first thing that came to mind was, that's why I'm not for the singularity, because, I hit 80. I want to check out, man, because it's been a long 25 years getting just to this place. When really paying attention, it's been nuts. I want to bring it up. The name of the president's address tonight is what? Put the banner back up again. She just said it.
The renewal of
the American dream. Okay. That is so critical, not just here, but when J.D. Vance went to Europe, and they said, when the foreign minister of Germany wept openly and said, we don't have anything in common with America anymore because of what he said. And what J.D. Vance said was, the American dream, the American promise, the Bill of Rights. We've been talking about who's the biggest enemy, who can really stop this. We stopped USAID. We stopped the corruption, or we're stopping. We haven't stopped it. We're stopping it now. We're finding the weasels. But we all know, John Podesta, we all know how that game works. Imagine the EU. They're not doing anything on this. They are all lined up in the same exact way, and now they're saying we don't have anything in common. I think you could see, if he's successful, like Javier Milei, if he can pull off a Javier Milei in this country, you are going to see revolution in Europe, because they are completely disconnected from everything the West used to stand for.
Yeah. And they really believe it. It's not just about their own power and money and all of that. It is about that. But that woman who was openly weeping because J.D. Vance said, yeah, we believe in free speech and we're not going to arrest people for saying things that we don't like, for someone to sob over that. And then for our journalists.
To think that we changed.
Right. And then for our journalists to do their work and to say, well, the Holocaust was started because of free speech. I mean, it is an international apparatus that's fighting against this. And it is spiritual, because it's insane. You have to be blind, truly, to be able to see what's right and what's wrong here.
I think we're all talked out. We got 10 minutes to go. We could just sit here.
Just chill.
They're starting to walk in. You can see them.
The soldiers that fought for Germany, France, England, and Austria-Hungary in World War I, and the governments that fought World War I, had way more in common with one another in terms of values. I mean, they literally were intermarried. They were literal family members. But if you lived in Budapest in 1912, if you lived in Berlin in 1912, if you lived in London or Paris in 1912, other than language, life was virtually the same. You went to virtually the same churches, you had virtually the same standard of living, you had virtually the same values, your kids were virtually taught the same fundamentals of human life, all right? And the people that we are up against today, we have less in common with them than the nations that fought each other in World War I had. And that's a dangerous place for us to be. That's where we are. I mean, other than we're white, other than the lack of melanin, tell me, there's 4 smart people on this panel. Explain to me what I have in common.
I'd count myself out of that
3.5.
At least this hour.
3.5, all right. Tell me what I have in common other than melanin levels. Somebody like me that puts the fun in fundamentalism, thinks the Bible is true, that America is an exceptional country, that Western civilization is superior to all other civilizations since the 3rd chapter of Genesis, all right? Explain to me what I have in common with the leadership of Germany, France, England, almost any other Western European country. What do I have in common with them other than melanin level?
I know.
Then tell me what war we would fight together then.
I know.
We both agree the stakes are the same. What war is that?
That is kind of my point of this. We've been talking about NATO and, do we want to be in NATO or not?
Exactly.
No, not if that's what they believe.
Yeah.
No, they are going to be, soon to be, maybe Islamic countries with nuclear weapons, but even if they just keep this WEF thing going, we don't have anything in common. And I think they're a danger to freedom.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. To me, the entire Ukraine thing is a replay of World War I. And we just have it's cynical groups of elites on both sides, whether you want to call them Putin is what Zelensky would be if they switched armies. They're the same people. They're the same groups of people. If I'm driving a ready-mix truck, if I'm roofing today, if I'm a plumber, tell me why I give a rip who controls the Crimea. Whether they're speaking, whether it's Brussels and Davos or Moscow, why do I care? I don't, nor should I. They're the same groups of people. The reality is these people want to behave like Putin, and when J.D. Vance told them to stop behaving like Putin, they had a meltdown, right? So, I mean, we have almost nothing in common with these people at all, nothing.
So I said today on radio, and I think, Stu, you were kind of with me, Mitch McConnell, was that today or yesterday? Today. Mitch McConnell.
That's right. Mitch doesn't know either.
Yeah, I know. He wrote, it was 6 a.m. this morning when I read it. Mitch McConnell wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post today. Anybody read it? Good. You didn't need to.
I'm an American.
I told you I don't pay for those subscriptions.
So he wrote this op-ed that we have to spend more on the Pentagon. And first of all, we spend more than the top biggest countries in the world, the top 9 combined. So if we're not ahead yet, there's a problem, okay? And this, I've talked about this a lot lately, and I know it's really not there yet with people, but we are at the edge of the singularity. We are at the event horizon where you are going to be sucked into that waterfall, and there's no way out of it. We're there at the event horizon. AI in 5 years it will be ASI, artificial superintelligence. I'm convinced of it. When that happens, already your aircraft carriers are the horses of World War I. Your airplanes, even the most sophisticated airplane, is going to be taken down by a swarm of drones, like a swarm of geese. Why would we spend money on any new projects right now instead of taking our Army Corps of Engineers and building nuclear power plants? Because that's what you're going to need. That will decide who wins the next war, power and AI. Does anybody agree with me on that?
100% I agree.
Really?
Yeah.
Good.
But I also think what you're describing is what happens. Ultimately, something must always rule, and something will always be worshipped.
Yes.
What you're really talking about is a technocratic state replacing the idea of a Judeo-Christian constitutional government. That essentially something transcendent has to be, or something perceived to be transcendent must be put in the seat on the throne. And so if we're not going to worship the ultimate supreme intelligence, we'll just create our own.
But it's going to happen, and there's no way out. And for a very short period of time, to be able to survive and get to the actual singularity, we have to be aware that this is happening. It's like,
have you guys played around with Grok 3 at all?
Oh, yeah.
I am surprised how much it knows about me.
Oh, yeah.
It blows my mind.
Oh, ask it any
question. Blows my mind. It's like ideological 3D printing.
Ask it any question about any business and go deep, and it will give you a business plan that you're like, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
It is truly remarkable. But we're at this place
we won't have to think for ourselves, Glenn.
I know. Yay. We're at this place where we have the Manhattan Project, and we didn't really know what it was. We didn't even know it would work. We know ASI is coming. It's coming. When we detonated that bomb, what was the response? Dear God, what have we done? I think the singularity is going to be exactly the same thing. Dear God, what have we done? But just like the atomic bomb, we have got to be in control of it. It cannot go to China. It can't.
Yeah, I agree with that. I didn't know that much about the singularity. I don't typically listen to Steve Bannon, but I heard him talking about it the other day. Honestly, that was the first time I had heard that word in the description of what you're talking about. And you're right, it is inevitable. It's not if, but when. And the good guys, as good as they can be, have to be the ones in charge.
The important part of the singularity, it's a black hole. It's the event horizon. And that's where we are. We're either right there or we soon will be. And that's when you're in a stream and you're just rowing your boat and all of a sudden you hear something and you're like, oh, that sounds like a waterfall. And now you're in the place where you're going, no matter how hard, you're going over the cliff.
Yeah. I think it's hard sometimes to imagine what that's going to be like.
You can't.
And so
ask Grok that question. Ask Grok that question. I asked that question.
What it's going to be like?
I said, can anyone, including you, predict what ASI will come up with and what life will be like? It said no. It can't predict it. No one can. They're lying if they say it will.
It's very freaky, isn't it?
It's very freaky.
It's very freaky. And I think this is one of the things that you've been doing forever, is seeing these things before a lot of other people see them and sounding the alarms on them. Do you need to cut in?
Yeah, I need to cut in. We're just a few seconds away. Who is in my ear that's saying, Matt?
It's Matthew
Go ahead,
Peterson,
Matt.
yes. I think it is very hard to imagine, as she's saying, and this is the importance of alternative media right now. Because Glenn has been saying this for a long time and pointing to these dangers. There's a lot of newcomers to the scene now who, are either they're wringing their hands and saying it's all bad and it's all terrible, or they're saying, please accept me as your new Lord and Savior and worship the computer God.
Neither of those are right.
And what we need is alternative media and alternative media landscape to start talking about these things in an open way where people are able to debate them, because they're very serious issues. In fact, I want to propose a new bioethics commission. There used to be a bioethics commission some years back with some intelligent people on it, so that people can debate these things in public. But that's what we're going to do at Blaze, and we are doing at Blaze, and we need to do a lot more of it, because these issues are so vital right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you don't know who you are, what the meaning of life is, what your place is, who God is, Grok will tell you.
Plenty of theology with Grok.
Oh, yeah.
I have a
and
question,
it's amazing.
Glenn.
Yeah.
I have a question, Glenn. If people don't want to be a part of that, they don't want to be sucked into the waterfall, they don't want to merge their consciousness with the computer, will that option to opt out even be possible?
It depends on who has it. You will be a danger to society, because you'll be like a toddler in New York City playing in the streets. You won't understand because it's moving too fast. So for your own protection, you'll have to be like the Amish, which I would live like the Amish over that.
But if you wanted to do that, you could basically step out of society.
You'd have to.
The village.
Yeah.
Shyamalan has paved the way.
Yeah, no, you'd have to. And there's going to come a point, this is why it's going to be both of those things. It's going to be tremendous and great. It's also going to be horrific. You have to plant yourself so deep in God right now and know who you are, that you're unmovable, because the promise is going to be so great, and everyone will say, why? What's wrong with you? Why don't you want to be smarter? You will be literally, and I use this in a clinical sense, you will be retarded compared to everyone else. So you have to know, but once you cross into the body, that's a two-way pipe.
Well, this is the original sin. This goes back to the garden.
For knowledge.
What Satan said, you can be like God.
Yep. Okay, I guess we are coming up to the time where the Sergeant of Arms, I have heard that he's going to be 9 minutes late or 10 minutes late. Is that true? Is he in the building?
That doesn't.
You know why he's
surprise me
late,
at
right?
all.
Are you seeing it happen on X?
No.
Antifa was trying to block his motorcade. They had to put a decoy motorcade out. Secret Service did, and they had to take him in a back way.
I mean.
Okay, what letter of FOFO
Let me repeat
are we
myself.
on for Antifa, though? I feel like
Orange jumpsuits, shackles, examples,
that's
punishment,
exactly.
justice
Tapping the sign again.
must happen.
No.
Yeah, this.
And you notice he's closer to having his fuse lit. I mean, in an hour from now, it's going
I'm prophesying. Yes.
yeah, I think that's a great example of that.
I think too, just on your point here, Glenn, on AI. It's tough to stop this stuff because I think there's going to be a lot of good that comes from it.
Yeah.
And when people are affected and see these things happen and it affects their lives, it makes it easier. When they're canceling the gym membership for the average person and they can actually not have to deal with it for a month, they're going to get sucked into it. And I think hang
on just a second. Melania, let's just take this full quickly. Melania is entering now. Boy, I saw a picture of her in the Capitol fighting for, girls and girls sports. She is, she's a supermodel, but she is absolutely stunning, and because also of her class.
Looks very
She's so
fierce
classic
always.
and what?
Very fierce, always.
Yeah, always.
In command.
Yes. No nonsense.
It's still a good reminder that none of the fashion magazines wanted to highlight this
Oh, yeah.
gorgeous, stylish,
Incredible.
classy
look at
woman in the first term.
Look at how she pulled off the look
her
she was
guest?
having for.
I don't know.
One of them is a revenge porn, AI porn victim, a 15-year-old that had deep fakes spread about her.
Peyton McNabb, I think, is also going to be there.
Yeah, you interviewed her.
By the male athlete in volleyball.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that she's taking up that.
Yeah.
It's a great example of it hitting real people, though. I was just talking about that.
That's so powerful.
No one cared about trans rights or trans stuff forever until their kids started getting hit in the head with volleyballs.
Yeah.
Right. And when it hits you like that, things tend to change. And
Keep this full and put us in the little box if you don't mind, because I just want to be able to see what's going on. This is the cabinet, the president's cabinet making their way in. It's really, have any of you guys been there? And
I have not.
You have not?
No.
Oh, it's so slimy. It is so incredible.
You mean? I thought you meant to like a State of the Union type of speech.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, it's so slimy. All those people that are lining up to shake the hands, they come, and if I'm not mistaken, you cannot have someone save a seat for you. So they come like 2 hours early to be able to shake the hands of it. It's weird. You're a weirdo.
Very high school.
Who's wearing the pink? Are those Republican women wearing the pink and the Democrat women are wearing the blue? Do we know?
Oh, how
really?
unbelievable. The women on the Democratic side would be wearing blue.
Yes.
Gosh, they act like
I think that's maybe what it is in defense of girls and women. I'm not sure.
Did you go to a State of the Union, Glenn?
Yeah, I did.
You were somebody's guest, right? Like a congressman or something?
Yeah. And it's pretty amazing. I was there when
Thomas Massey bring
No. I think it was, maybe. I can't remember. But
I'll look at your schedule.
Yeah, but I was there when Rush Limbaugh got the Medal of Freedom.
Oh, that was so touching.
It was an amazing
That was a beautiful
moment.
So these women, these Democrat women that are wearing blue, they're planning disruptions tonight.
That would be great.
They are. They're planning.
Oh, do it.
Think of the heckler's veto on college campuses, where they just try to drown out the speakers. That's what they have planned.
Which they're going to try to trigger
There's
him.
no way.
And he's going to stay
If I'm working in the Trump political wing,
I'm hoping.
I would try to instigate this. I'd plant.
I would.
The American people hate that crap.
I might go in a blue
Think
dress.
about how gracefully Trump handled it during his first term. Remember when I think it was AOC, and it was before the full squad was in there, but they all showed up in white.
Yeah.
And they yelled.
That's the year
and
I was there.
Oh, and he complimented them.
Yeah.
And because he complimented them, he goes, "Oh, you look lovely."
Yeah.
Just by that comment, he.
Yeah.
He
kind word turns away wrath. That's
Yes.
That's a
He
proverb.
handles himself now so calmly, so
Yes.
cool, so collected.
I love it.
He is, he does not have any fear anymore.
Yeah.
You have to understand and be self-aware who you're up against. All right, you want to compete with Michael Jordan in the batting cage, not on the basketball court. Okay, you're not going to out-troll Donald Trump. It is just it's futile to try this. I mean, he's the home team in that exchange, and he owns the referees. Okay. And the fans are rooting for him. You cannot win that game. It's an unwinnable game.
And you're also saying that he's creating chaos by cutting and finding corruption, and yet you're creating chaos. Yeah. I mean, I think people are just done with that. I think they were absolutely done with the chaos on the streets.
And arguing with Trump in those public moments is not what you want to do. Zelensky found that out very recently.
Yeah.
Let's remember, Glenn, that when as we look at these people flying through here, amazing cabinet, but the backdrop of the night is that Congress is still broken. right? I mean, the Republican Congress is still broken. The Republicans are still broken. They haven't, fully rehashed and reformed the Congress. Congress is a creature of the administrative state. So when we look forward to what President Trump has to say and this amazing cabinet he's assembled, he's still speaking to a body of people that haven't quite got in line. And I think people like us don't quite trust to enact the mandate and the agenda.
I don't know how these, especially congressmen, I don't understand how they don't get this mandate.
How
if they don't agree with it?
It's a 2-seat majority. I mean, what are they going to do?
No, but they don't agree with it. You can't rise above your own worldview.
I think Steve's correct here. They just don't believe it. They don't want to do it. Speaker Johnson said, this is going back to something you mentioned earlier, the government's going to shut down next week, and I think you and I both want that to happen.
Yeah, like we exchanged a fist bump. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the camera didn't catch that, but we were both like, could we do that?
Yes.
Speaker Johnson preemptively said that we should not expect any DOGE cuts to be in any kind of continuing resolution. That fiscal conservatism can wait until next year. And he's the one, he sat on CPAC stage.
Yeah.
He sat on CPAC stage, 2 weeks ago, and said that, conservatism, fiscal conservatism is who we are. It's our brand. And I'm like, no, you think it's your brand. It was ineffective in your hands. Then Elon Musk, at the behest of Donald Trump, came in with DOGE and showed you how to actually be a fiscal conservative, and you're rejecting it because you want to, what?
Yeah.
Claim a brand that
Well, there's
isn't real?
75
It's
Main Street Republicans, 25-30 House Freedom Caucus members.
Right.
That's the answer to your question. I mean, so there's 75 Bill Kristols.
So how do you actually handle this?
And there's 30 Chip Roys. Yeah, that's not a manageable caucus, and the only way you'll get anything good out of it is, honestly, Donald Trump has to put his thumb on the scale.
He does.
And demand it. There's no other way you'll get anything.
And he has the mandate to do it. That's why I said what I want to see from him is zero in, screw the Democrats, whatever. Yeah, that's cute. You look beautiful. And concentrate on the Democrats and say, look, I'm here tomorrow working. I got the whole government to run. I'm here tomorrow because you are the key to this success. And the American people are behind us. And I want your help, and I'll work with you, and I'm listening to you. But if you don't start to get your butt in gear, I'm sorry, but come sit next to me in the Oval Office like Zelensky did when you're running for re-election. You're either part of this mandate or you're not.
He's going to need to do the same thing to the Republican Party and the Republicans in Congress that he did to Zelensky this week.
Yes.
Yeah.
And publicly.
Yes.
Just like he did Zelensky.
Yes. And I think the people would be happy with that.
I think the reason that they brought Mike Johnson into the fold, they brought him to the UFC fight to be like, oh, you're part of the boys club, instead of trying to unseat him.
First time he ever was with the cool kids his entire life.
Yeah, and you could tell.
Yep.
Yeah, not a good look.
Glenn, if I could jump in.
Just a minute, Jill.
Yep.
I think the reason that they brought him into the fold was not because they ever thought he was a true believer. I think they thought that the Republicans in Congress wouldn't give them a speaker that they wanted that aligned with them ideologically. And so they thought, okay, well, we'll pick the weakest person there so that we can control him. And I don't know that that's effective so far.
No.
Because he keeps saying things like this, rejecting DOGE. Who do you think you're representing?
Yeah, I know. Jill, you were going to say?
Yeah, well, everybody wants to be a part of DOGE, except for when it comes to actually doing the doging. When you're actually going to go through and cut the money from the federal government, nobody wants to be a part of that. But something that we highlighted on the mandate was a few weeks ago, back when Pete Hegseth was being confirmed, and Senator Tom Tillis was out there going through and playing both sides of the fence, which is what we expect from the senators out there in D.C. But he was out there talking with the sister-in-law of Pete Hegseth and putting all the rumors forward. And then he came out and it was released from the Wall Street Journal that he was the one doing it. And he said, oh, you know what? I had to do my due diligence. But now that you all know, now I'm definitely going to vote for him. And then what happened when Kash Patel was next up? Well, Tom Tillis wanted all those headlines to go away. So he put out the Kash Patel bingo card so that everybody could just have a good time with these confirmations and make sure that nobody remembered what he did just a few days before with Pete Hegseth.
It is remarkable how they just don't get it, and it shows you that we're only finding a little bit of the corruption, because you don't fight for this kind of stuff, fight against these cuts. unless, A, you don't want to do your job. You just want to be there forever and get rich through the insider trading, or you are protecting some little secret stash of you and your buddies. It's really, really despicable. You look at who's standing up against it, and I just don't know how you aren't sickened by what they have found so far. Sounds like we're being called to order.
Speaker, the President of the United States.
Here we go. Our comments after the president speaks. Enjoy. Let me put this down on the floor.
Speaker Johnson, Vice President Vance, the First Lady of the United States, members of the United States Congress, thank you very much. And to my fellow citizens, America is back. 6 weeks ago, I stood beneath the dome of this Capitol and proclaimed the dawn of the golden age of America. From that moment on, it has been nothing but swift and unrelenting action to usher in the greatest and most successful era in the history of our country. We have accomplished more in 43 days than most administrations accomplished in 4 years or 8 years, and we are just getting started. I return to this chamber tonight to report that America's momentum is back, our spirit is back, our pride is back, our confidence is back, and the American dream is surging bigger and better than ever before. The American dream is unstoppable, and our country is on the verge of a comeback, the likes of which the world has never witnessed and perhaps will never witness again. There's never been anything like it. The presidential election of November 5th was a mandate like has not been seen in many decades. We won all 7 swing states, giving us an electoral college victory of 312 votes. We won the popular vote by big numbers and won counties in our country. And won counties in our country, 2,700 to 525, on a map that reads almost completely red for Republican. Now, for the first time in modern history, more Americans believe that our country is headed in the right direction than the wrong direction. In fact, it's an astonishing record, 27-point swing, the most ever. Likewise, small business optimism saw its single largest one-month gain ever recorded,
Mr. President.
a 41-point jump.
Members are directed to uphold and maintain decorum in the House and to cease any further disruptions. That's your warning. Members are engaging in willful and continuing breach of decorum, and the chair is prepared to direct the Sergeant-at-Arms to restore order to the joint session. Mr. Green, take your seat. Take your seat, sir. Take your seat. Finding that members continue to engage in willful and concerted disruption of proper decorum, the chair now directs the Sergeant-at-Arms to restore order. Remove this gentleman from the chamber. Members are directed to uphold and maintain decorum in the House. Mr. President, you continue.
Thank you. Over the past 6 weeks, I have signed nearly 100 executive orders and taken more than 400 executive actions, a record to restore common sense, safety, optimism, and wealth all across our wonderful land. The people elected me to do the job, and I'm doing it. In fact, it has been stated by many that the first month of our presidency, it's our presidency, is the most successful in the history of our nation. By many. And what makes it even more impressive is that, do you know who number 2 is? George Washington. How about that? How about that? I don't know about that list, but we'll take it. Within hours of taking the oath of office, I declared a national emergency on our southern border, and I deployed the U.S. military and Border Patrol to repel the invasion of our country. And what a job they've done. As a result, illegal border crossings last month were by far the lowest ever recorded, ever. They heard my words and they chose not to come. Much easier that way. In comparison, under Joe Biden, the worst president in American history, there were hundreds of thousands of illegal crossings a month, and virtually all of them, including murderers, drug dealers, gang members, and people from mental institutions and insane asylums, were released into our country. Who would want to do that? This is my 5th such speech to Congress. And once again, I look at the Democrats in front of me, and I realize there is absolutely nothing I can say to make them happy or to make them stand or smile or applaud. Nothing I can do. I could find a cure to the most devastating disease, a disease that would wipe out entire nations, or announce the answers to the greatest economy in history, or the stoppage of crime to the lowest levels ever recorded. And these people sitting right here will not clap, will not stand, and certainly will not cheer for these astronomical achievements. They won't do it, no matter what. Five times I've been up here. It's very sad, and it just shouldn't be this way. So Democrats sitting before me, for just this one night, why not join us in celebrating so many incredible wins for America? For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again. Every day, my administration is fighting to deliver the change America needs to bring a future that America deserves, and we're doing it. This is a time for big dreams and bold action. Upon taking office, I imposed an immediate freeze on all federal hiring, a freeze on all new federal regulations, and a freeze on all foreign aid. I terminated the ridiculous Green New Scam. I withdrew from the unfair Paris Climate Accord, which was costing us trillions of dollars that other countries were not paying. I withdrew from the corrupt World Health Organization. And I also withdrew from the anti-American UN Human Rights Council. We ended all of Biden's environmental restrictions that were making our country far less safe and totally unaffordable. And importantly, we ended the last administration's insane electric vehicle mandate, saving our auto workers and companies from economic destruction. To unshackle our economy, I have directed that for every one new regulation, 10 old regulations must be eliminated, just like I did in my very successful first term. And in that first term, we set records on ending unnecessary rules and regulations like no other president had done before. We ordered all federal workers to return to the office. They will either show up for work in person or be removed from their job. And we have ended weaponized government where, as an example, a sitting president is allowed to viciously prosecute his political opponent, like me. How did that work out? Not too good. Not too good. And I have stopped all government censorship and brought back free speech in America. It's back. And 2 days ago, I signed an order making English the official language of the United States of America. I renamed the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. And likewise, I renamed, for a great president, William McKinley, Mount McKinley again. Beautiful Alaska. We love Alaska. We've ended the tyranny of so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion policies all across the entire federal government and indeed the private sector and our military. And our country will be woke no longer. We believe that whether you are a doctor, an accountant, a lawyer, or an air traffic controller, you should be hired and promoted based on skill and competence, not race or gender. Very important. You should be hired based on merit. And the Supreme Court, in a brave and very powerful decision, has allowed us to do so. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. We have removed the poison of critical race theory from our public schools, and I signed an order making it the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female. I also signed an executive order to ban men from playing in women's sports. Three years ago, Peyton McNabb was an all-star high school athlete, one of the best, preparing for a future in college sports. But when her girls' volleyball match was invaded by a male, he smashed the ball so hard in Peyton's face, causing traumatic brain injury, partially paralyzing her right side, and ending her athletic career. It was a shot like she's never seen before. She's never seen anything like it. Peyton is here tonight in the gallery, and Peyton, from now on, schools will kick the men off the girls' team, or they will lose all federal funding. And if you really want to see numbers, just take a look at what happened in the women's boxing, weightlifting, track and field, swimming, or cycling, where a male recently finished a long-distance race 5 hours and 14 minutes ahead of a woman for a new record by 5 hours. Broke the record by 5 hours. It's demeaning for women, and it's very bad for our country. We're not going to put up with it any longer. What I have just described is only a small fraction of the common sense revolution that is now, because of us, sweeping the entire world. Common sense has become a common theme, and we will never go back. Never. Never going to let that happen. Among my very highest priorities is to rescue our economy and get dramatic and immediate relief to working families. As you know, we inherited from the last administration an economic catastrophe and an inflation nightmare. Their policies drove up energy prices, pushed up grocery costs, and drove the necessities of life out of reach for millions and millions of Americans. They've never had anything like it. We suffered the worst inflation in 48 years, but perhaps even in the history of our country. They're not sure. As president, I'm fighting every day to reverse this damage and make America affordable again. Joe Biden especially let the price of eggs get out of control. The egg price is out of control, and we're working hard to get it back down. Secretary, do a good job on that. You inherited a total mess from the previous administration. Do a good job. A major focus of our fight to defeat inflation is rapidly reducing the cost of energy. The previous administration cut the number of new oil and gas leases by 95%, slowed pipeline construction to a halt, and closed more than 100 power plants. We are opening up many of those power plants right now. And frankly, we have never seen anything like it. That's why on my first day in office, I declared a national energy emergency. As you've heard me say many times, we have more liquid gold under our feet than any nation on earth, and by far. And now I fully authorize the most talented team ever assembled to go and get it. It's called Drill, Baby, Drill. My administration is also working on a gigantic natural gas pipeline in Alaska, among the largest in the world, where Japan, South Korea, and other nations want to be our partner with investments of trillions of dollars each. There's never been anything like that one. It will be truly spectacular. It's all set to go. The permitting is gotten. And later this week, I will also take historic action to dramatically expand production of critical minerals and rare earths here in the USA. To further combat inflation, we will not only be reducing the cost of energy, but will be ending the flagrant waste of taxpayer dollars. And to that end, I have created the brand new Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. Perhaps you've heard of it. Perhaps. Which is headed by Elon Musk, who is in the gallery tonight. Thank you, Elon. He's working very hard. He didn't need this. He didn't need this. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Everybody here, even this side, appreciates it, I believe. They just don't want to admit that. Just listen to some of the appalling waste we have already identified. $22 billion from HHS to provide free housing and cars for illegal aliens. $45 million for diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarships in Burma. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. Nobody knows what that is. $8 million to promote LGBTQI+ in the African nation of Lesotho, which nobody has ever heard of. $60 million for indigenous peoples and Afro-Colombian empowerment in Central America, $60 million. $8 million for making mice transgender. This is real. $32 million for a left-wing propaganda operation in Moldova. $10 million for male circumcision in Mozambique. $20 million for the Arab Sesame Street in the Middle East. It's a program. $20 million for a program. $1.9 billion to recently created Decarbonization of Homes Committee, headed up, and we know she's involved. Just at the last moment, the money was passed over by a woman named Stacey Abrams. Have you ever heard of her? A $3.5 million consulting contract for lavish fish monitoring. $1.5 million for voter confidence in Liberia. $14 million for social cohesion in Mali. $59 million for illegal alien hotel rooms in New York City. He's a real estate developer. He's done very well. $250,000 to increase vegan local climate action innovation in Zambia. $42 million for social and behavior change in Uganda. $14 million for improving public procurement in Serbia. $47 million for improving learning outcomes in Asia. Asia's doing very well with learning. I don't know what we're doing. We should use it ourselves. And $101 million for DEI contracts at the Department of Education. The most ever paid, nothing even like it. Under the Trump administration, all of these scams, and they're far worse, but I didn't think it was appropriate to talk about them. They're so bad. Many more have been found out and exposed and swiftly terminated by a group of very intelligent, mostly young people, headed up by Elon, and we appreciate it. We found hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud. And we've taken back the money and reduced our debt to fight inflation and other things. Taken back a lot of that money. We got it just in time. This is just the beginning. The Government Accountability Office, a federal government office, has estimated annual fraud of over $500 billion in our nation, and we are working very hard to stop it. We're going to. We're also identifying shocking levels of incompetence and probable fraud in the Social Security program for our seniors, and that our seniors and people that we love rely on. Believe it or not, government databases list 4.7 million Social Security members from people aged 100 to 109 years old. It lists 3.6 million people from ages 110 to 119. I don't know any of them. I know some people that are rather elderly, but not quite that elderly. 3.47 million people from ages 120 to 129. 3.9 million people from ages 130 to 139. 3.5 million people from ages 140 to 149. And money is being paid to many of them, and we're searching right now. In fact, Pam, good luck. Good luck. You're going to find it. But a lot of money is paid out to people because it just keeps getting paid, and nobody does, and it really hurts Social Security and hurts our country. 1.3 million people from ages 150 to 159, and over 130,000 people, according to the Social Security databases, are age over 160 years old. We have a healthier country than I thought, Bobby. Including, to finish, 1,039 people between the ages of 220 and 229, one person between the age of 240 and 249, and one person is listed at 360 years of age. More than 100 years older than our country. But we're going to find out where that money's going, and it's not going to be pretty. By slashing all of the fraud, waste, and theft we can find, we will defeat inflation, bring down mortgage rates, lower car payments and grocery prices, protect our seniors, and put more money in the pockets of American families. And today, interest rates took a beautiful drop, big, beautiful drop. It's about time. And in the near future, I want to do what has not been done in 24 years, balance the federal budget. We're going to balance it. With that goal in mind, we have developed in great detail what we are calling the Gold Card, which goes on sale very, very soon. For $5 million, we will allow the most successful job-creating people from all over the world to buy a path to U.S. citizenship. It's like the green card, but better and more sophisticated. And these people will have to pay tax in our country. They won't have to pay tax from where they came. The money that they've made, you wouldn't want to do that, but they have to pay tax, create jobs. They'll also be taking people out of colleges and paying for them so that we can keep them in our country instead of having them being forced out. Number one, at the top school, as an example, being forced out and not being allowed to stay and create tremendous numbers of jobs and great success for a company out there. So while we take out the criminals, killers, traffickers, and child predators who are allowed to enter our country under the open border policy of these people, the Democrats, the Biden administration, the open border insane policies that you've allowed to destroy our country, we will now bring in brilliant, hardworking, job-creating people. They're going to pay a lot of money, and we're going to reduce our debt with that money. Americans have given us a mandate for bold and profound change. For nearly 100 years, the federal bureaucracy has grown until it has crushed our freedoms, ballooned our deficits, and held back America's potential in every possible way. The nation founded by pioneers and risk-takers now drowns under millions and millions of pages of regulations and debt. Approvals that should take 10 days to get instead take 10 years, 15 years, and even 20 years before you're rejected. Meanwhile, we have hundreds of thousands of federal workers who have not been showing up to work. My administration will reclaim power from this unaccountable bureaucracy, and we will restore true democracy to America again. And any federal bureaucrat who resists this change will be removed from office immediately. Because we are draining the swamp. It's very simple. And the days of rule by unelected bureaucrats are over. And the next phase of our plan to deliver the greatest economy in history is for this Congress to pass tax cuts for everybody. They're in there. They're waiting for you to vote. And I'm sure that the people on my right, I don't mean the Republican right, but my right here, I'm sure you're going to vote for those tax cuts, because otherwise I don't believe the people will ever vote you into office. So I'm doing you a big favor by telling you that. But I know this group is going to be voting for the tax. Thank you. It's a very, very big part of our plan. We had tremendous success in our first term with it. A very big part of our plan. We're seeking permanent income tax cuts all across the board. And to get urgently needed relief to Americans hit especially hard by inflation, I'm calling for no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security benefits for our great seniors. And I also want to make interest payments on car loans tax deductible, but only if the car is made in America. And by the way, we're going to have growth in the auto industry like nobody's ever seen. Plants are opening up all over the place. Deals are being made. Never seen. That's a combination of the election win and tariffs. It's a beautiful word, isn't it? That, along with our other policies, will allow our auto industry to absolutely boom. It's going to boom. Spoke to the majors today, all three, the top people, and they're so excited. In fact, already numerous car companies have announced that they will be building massive automobile plants in America, with Honda just announcing a new plant in Indiana, one of the largest anywhere in the world. And this has taken place since our great victory on November 5th, a date which will hopefully go down as one of the most important in the history of our country. In addition, as part of our tax cuts, we want to cut taxes on domestic production and all manufacturing. And just as we did before, we will provide 100% expensing. It will be retroactive to January 20th, 2025. And it was one of the main reasons why our tax cuts were so successful in our first term, giving us the most successful economy in the history of our country, first term. We had a great first term. If you don't make your product in America, however, under the Trump administration, you will pay a tariff, and in some cases, a rather large one. Other countries have used tariffs against us for decades, and now it's our turn to start using them against those other countries. On average, the European Union, China, Brazil, India, Mexico, and Canada, have you heard of them? And countless other nations charge us tremendously higher tariffs than we charge them. It's very unfair. India charges us auto tariffs higher than 100%. China's average tariff on our products is twice what we charge them. And South Korea's average tariff is 4 times higher. Think of that, 4 times higher. And we give so much help militarily and in so many other ways to South Korea. But that's what happens. This is happening by friend and foe. This system is not fair to the United States and never was. And so on April 2nd, I wanted to make it April 1st, but I didn't want to be accused of April Fool's Day. That's not, just one day cost us a lot of money. But we're going to do it in April. I'm a very superstitious person. April 2nd, reciprocal tariffs kick in. And whatever they tariff us, other countries, we will tariff them. That's reciprocal, back and forth. Whatever they tax us, we will tax them. If they do non-monetary tariffs to keep us out of their market, then we will do non-monetary barriers to keep them out of our market. There's a lot of that, too. They don't even allow us in their market. We will take in trillions and trillions of dollars and create jobs like we have never seen before. I did it with China and I did it with others, and the Biden administration couldn't do anything about it because there was so much money they couldn't do anything about it. We have been ripped off for decades by nearly every country on earth, and we will not let that happen any longer. Much has been said over the last 3 months about Mexico and Canada, but we have very large deficits with both of them. But even more importantly, they've allowed fentanyl to come into our country at levels never seen before, killing hundreds of thousands of our citizens and many very young, beautiful people, destroying families. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. They are, in effect, receiving subsidies of hundreds of billions of dollars. We pay subsidies to Canada and to Mexico of hundreds of billions of dollars, and the United States will not be doing that any longer. We're not going to do it any longer. Thanks to our America First policies we're putting into place, we have had $1.7 trillion of new investment in America in just the past few weeks. The combination of the election and our economic policies that people of SoftBank, one of the most brilliant anywhere in the world, announced a $200 billion investment. OpenAI and Oracle, Larry Ellison, announced $500 billion investment, which they wouldn't have done if Kamala had won. Apple announced $500 billion investment. Tim Cook called me. He said, I cannot spend it fast enough. It's going to be much higher than that, I believe. They'll be building their plants here instead of in China. And just yesterday, Taiwan Semiconductor, the biggest in the world, most powerful in the world, has a tremendous amount, 97% of the market, announced a $165 billion investment to build the most powerful chips on earth right here in the USA. And we're not giving them any money. Your CHIPS Act is a horrible, horrible thing. We give hundreds of billions of dollars, and it doesn't mean a thing. They take our money and they don't spend it. All that meant to them, we're giving them no money. All that was important to them was they didn't want to pay the tariffs, so they came and they're building, and many other companies are coming. We don't have to give them money. We just want to protect our businesses and our people. And they will come because they won't have to pay tariffs if they build in America. So it's very amazing. You should get rid of the CHIP Act, and whatever's left over, Mr. Speaker, you should use it to reduce debt or any other reason you want to. Our new trade policy will also be great for the American farmer. I love the farmer. Who will now be selling into our home market, the USA, because nobody is going to be able to compete with you. Because there's goods that come in from other countries and companies. They're really in a bad position in so many different ways. They're uninspected. They may be very dirty and disgusting, and they come in and they pour in, and they hurt our American farmers. The tariffs will go on agricultural product coming into America, and our farmers, starting on April 2nd, it may be a little bit of an adjustment period, We had that before when I made the deal with China, $50 billion of purchases, and I said, just bear with me, and they did. They did. Probably have to bear with me again, and this will be even better. That was great. The problem with it was that Biden didn't enforce it. He didn't enforce it. $50 billion of purchases, and we were doing great, but Biden did not enforce it, and it hurt our farmers. But our farmers are going to have a field day right now. So to our farmers, have a lot of fun. I love you too. I love you too. It's all going to happen. And I have also imposed a 25% tariff on foreign aluminum, copper, lumber, and steel, because if we don't have, as an example, steel and lots of other things, we don't have a military, and frankly, we just won't have a country very long. Here today is a proud American steelworker, fantastic person from Decatur, Alabama, Jeff Denard. Has been working at the same steel plant for 27 years in a job that has allowed him to serve as the captain of his local volunteer fire department, raise 7 children with his beautiful wife, Nicole, and over the years provide a loving home for more than 40 foster children. So great, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. Stories like Jeff's remind us that tariffs are not just about protecting American jobs. They're about protecting the soul of our country. Tariffs are about making America rich again and making America great again, and it's happening, and it will happen rather quickly. There'll be a little disturbance, but we're okay with that. It won't be much. No, you're not. Oh. And look where Biden took us, very low, the lowest we've ever been. Jeff, I want to thank you very much, and I also want to recognize another person who has devoted herself to foster care community. She works so hard on it. A very loving person, our magnificent First Lady of the United States. Melania's work has yielded incredible results, helping prepare our nation's future leaders as they enter the workforce. Our First Lady is joined by 2 impressive young women, very impressive. Haley Ferguson, who benefited from the First Lady's Fostering the Future initiative and is poised to complete her education and become a teacher. And Elliston Berry, who became a victim of an illicit deepfake image produced by a peer. With Elliston's help, the Senate just passed the Take It Down Act, and this is so important. Thank you very much, John. John Thune, thank you. Stand up, John. Thank you, John. Thank you all very much. Thank you. And thank you to John Thune and the Senate. Great job. To criminalize the publication of such images online is a terrible, terrible thing. And once it passes the House, I look forward to signing that bill into law. Thank you. And I'm going to use that bill for myself, too, if you don't mind. Because nobody gets treated worse than I do online. Nobody. That's great. Thank you very much to the Senate. Thank you. But if we truly care about protecting Americans' children, no step is more crucial than securing America's borders. Over the past 4 years, 21 million people poured into the United States. Many of them were murderers, human traffickers, gang members, and other criminals from the streets of dangerous cities all throughout the world. Because of Joe Biden's insane and very dangerous open border policies, they are now strongly embedded in our country, but we are getting them out and getting them out fast. And I want to thank Tom Homan and Christy. I want to thank you and Paul of Border Patrol. I want to thank you. What a job they've all done. Everybody, Border Patrol, ICE, law enforcement in general is incredible. We have to take care of our law enforcement. Have to. Last year, a brilliant 22-year-old nursing student named Laken Riley, the best in her class, admired by everybody, went out for a jog on the campus of the University of Georgia. That morning, Laken was viciously attacked, assaulted, beaten, brutalized, and horrifically murdered. Laken was stolen from us by a savage illegal alien gang member who was arrested while trespassing across Biden's open southern border and then set loose into the United States under the heartless policies of that failed administration. It was indeed a failed administration. He had then been arrested and released in a Democrat-run sanctuary city, a disaster, before ending the life of this beautiful young angel. With us this evening are Laken's beloved mother, Allison, and her sister, Lauren. Last year, I told Laken's grieving parents that we would ensure their daughter would not have died in vain. That's why the very first bill I signed into law as your 47th president mandates the detention of all dangerous criminal aliens who threaten public safety. It's a very strong, powerful act. It's called the Laken-Riley Act. So Allison and Lauren, America will never, ever forget our beautiful Laken Hope Riley. Thank you very much. Since taking office, my administration has launched the most sweeping border and immigration crackdown in American history, and we quickly achieved the lowest numbers of illegal border crossers ever recorded. Thank you. The media and our friends in the Democrat Party kept saying we needed new legislation. We must have legislation to secure the border. But it turned out that all we really needed was a new president. Thank you. Joe Biden didn't just open our borders, he flew illegal aliens over them to overwhelm our schools, hospitals, and communities throughout the country. Entire towns like Aurora, Colorado, and Springfield, Ohio, buckled under the weight of the migrant occupation and corruption like nobody's ever seen before. Beautiful towns destroyed. Now, just as I promised in my inaugural address, we are achieving the great liberation of America. But there still is much work to be done. Here tonight is a woman I have gotten to know, Alexis Nungari from Houston. Wonderful woman. Last June, Alexis's 12-year-old daughter, her precious Jocelyn, walked to a nearby convenience store. She was kidnapped, tied up, assaulted for 2 hours under a bridge, and horrifically murdered. Arrested and charged with this heinous crime are 2 illegal alien monsters from Venezuela, released into America by the last administration through their ridiculous open border. The death of this beautiful 12-year-old girl and the agony of her mother and family touched our entire nation greatly. Alexis, I promised that we would always remember your daughter, your magnificent daughter, and earlier tonight, I signed an order keeping my word to you. One thing I have learned about Jocelyn is that she loved animals so much. She loved nature. Across Galveston Bay, from where Jocelyn lived in Houston, you will find a magnificent national wildlife refuge, a pristine, peaceful, 34,000-acre sanctuary for all of God's creatures on the edge of the Gulf of America. Alexis, moments ago, I formally renamed that refuge in loving memory of your beautiful daughter, Jocelyn. So, Mr. Vice President, if you would, may I have the order? Thank you very much. All 3 savages charged with Jocelyn and Lakin's murders were members of the Venezuelan prison gang, the toughest gang, they say, in the world, known as Tren de Aragua. 2 weeks ago, I officially designated this gang, along with MS-13 and the bloodthirsty Mexican drug cartels, as foreign terrorist organizations. They are now officially in the same category as ISIS, and that's not good for them. Countless thousands of these terrorists were welcomed into the U.S. by the Biden administration. But now every last one will be rounded up and forcibly removed from our country, or, if they're too dangerous, put in jails, standing trial in this country, because we don't want them to come back ever. With us this evening is a warrior on the front lines of that battle, Border Patrol Agent Roberto Ortiz. Great guy. In January, Roberto and another agent were patrolling by the Rio Grande near an area known as Cartel Island. Doesn't sound too nice to me. When heavily armed gunmen started shooting at them, Roberto saw that his partner was totally exposed, at great danger, and he leapt into action, returning fire and providing crucial seconds for his fellow agent to seek safety, just barely. I have some of the prints of that event, and it was not good. Agent Ortiz, we salute you for your great courage and for your line of fire that you took and for the bravery that you showed. We honor you, and we will always honor you. Thank you, Roberto, very much. Thank you, Roberta. And I actually got to know him on my many calls to the border. He's a great gentleman. The territory to the immediate south of our border is now dominated entirely by criminal cartels that murder, rape, torture, and exercise total control. They have total control over a whole nation, posing a grave threat to our national security. The cartels are waging war on America, and it's time for America to wage war on the cartels, which we are doing. Five nights ago, Mexican authorities, because of our tariff policies being imposed on them, think of this, handed over to us 29 of the biggest cartel leaders in their country. That has never happened before. They want to make us happy. First time ever. But we need Mexico and Canada to do much more than they've done, and they have to stop the fentanyl and drugs pouring into the USA. They're going to stop it. I have sent Congress a detailed funding request laying out exactly how we will eliminate these threats to protect our homeland and complete the largest deportation operation in American history, larger even than current record holder President Dwight D. Eisenhower, a moderate man, but someone who believed very strongly in borders. Americans expect Congress to send me this funding without delay so I can sign it into law. So, Mr. Speaker, John Thune, both of you, I hope you're going to be able to do that, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Mr. Leader, thank you. Thank you very much. And let's get it to me. I'll sign it so fast, you won't even believe it. And as we reclaim our sovereignty, we must also bring back law and order to our cities and towns. In recent years, our justice system has been turned upside down by radical left lunatics. Many jurisdictions virtually ceased enforcing the law against dangerous repeat offenders while weaponizing law enforcement against political opponents like me. My administration has acted swiftly and decisively to restore fair, equal, and impartial justice under the constitutional rule of law, starting at the FBI and the DOJ. Pam, good luck. Cash, wherever you may be, good luck. Good luck. Pam Bondi. Good luck. So important. Going to do a great job. Cash, thank you. Thank you, Cash. They've already started very strong. They're going to do a fantastic job. You're going to be very proud of them. We're also once again giving our police officers the support, protection, and respect they so dearly deserve. They have to get it. They have such a hard, dangerous job, but we're going to make it less dangerous. The problem is the bad guys don't respect the law, but they're starting to respect it, and they soon will respect it. This also includes our great fire departments throughout the country. Our firemen and women are unbelievable people, and we'll never forget them. And besides that, they voted for me in record numbers, so I have no choice. One year ago this month, 31-year-old New York police officer Jonathan Diller, unbelievably wonderful person and a great officer, was gunned down at a traffic stop on Long Island. I went to his funeral. The vicious criminal charged with his murder had 21 prior arrests, and they were rough arrests, too. He was a real bad one. The thug in the seat next to him had 14 prior arrests, and went by the name of Killer. He was Killer. He killed other people, they say, a lot of them. I attended Officer Diller's service, and when I met his wife and one-year-old son, Ryan, it was very inspirational, actually. His widow's name is Stephanie, and she is here tonight. Stephanie, thank you very much, Stephanie. Thank you very much. Stephanie, we're going to make sure that Ryan knows his dad was a true hero, New York's finest, and we're going to get these cold-blooded killers and repeat offenders off our streets, and we're going to do it fast. Got to stop it. They get out with 28 arrests. They push people into subway trains. They hit people over the head, back of the head with baseball bats. We got to get them out of here. I've already signed an executive order requiring a mandatory death penalty for anyone who murders a police officer, and tonight I'm asking Congress to pass that policy into permanent law. I'm also asking for a new crime bill getting tough on repeat offenders while enhancing protections for America's police officers so they can do their jobs without fear of their lives being totally destroyed. They don't want to be killed. We're not going to let them be killed. Joining us in the gallery tonight is a young man who truly loves our police. His name is DJ Daniel. He is 13 years old, and he has always dreamed of becoming a police officer. But in 2018, DJ was diagnosed with brain cancer. The doctors gave him 5 months at most to live. That was more than 6 years ago. Since that time, DJ and his dad have been on a quest to make his dream come true, and DJ has been sworn in as an honorary law enforcement officer, actually a number of times. The police love him, the police departments love him. And tonight, DJ, we're going to do you the biggest honor of them all. I am asking our new Secret Service Director, Sean Curran, to officially make you an agent of the United States Secret Service. Thank you, DJ. DJ's doctors believe his cancer likely came from a chemical he was exposed to when he was younger. Since 1975, rates of child cancer have increased by more than 40%. Reversing this trend is one of the top priorities for our new presidential commission to make America healthy again, chaired by our new Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy, Jr. With the name Kennedy, you would have thought everybody over here would have been cheering. How quickly they forget. Our goal is to get toxins out of our environment, poisons out of our food supply, and keep our children healthy and strong. As an example, not long ago, and you can't even believe these numbers, 1 in 10,000 children had autism, 1 in 10,000. And now it's 1 in 36. There's something wrong. 1 in 36. Think of that. So we're going to find out what it is, and there's nobody better than Bobby and all of the people that are working with you. You have the best to figure out what is going on. Okay, Bobby? Good luck. It's a very important job. Thank you. Go get him. Thank you. My administration is also working to protect our children from toxic ideologies in our schools. A few years ago, January Littlejohn and her husband discovered that their daughter's school had secretly socially transitioned their 13-year-old little girl. Teachers and administrators conspired to deceive January and her husband while encouraging her daughter to use a new name and pronouns. They, them pronoun, actually, all without telling January, who is here tonight and is now a courageous advocate against this form of child abuse. January, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Stories like this are why, shortly after taking office, I signed an executive order banning public schools from indoctrinating our children with transgender ideology. I also signed an order to cut off all taxpayer funding to any institution that engages in the sexual mutilation of our youth. And now I want Congress to pass a bill permanently banning and criminalizing sex changes on children and forever ending the lie that any child is trapped in the wrong body. This is a big lie. And our message to every child in America is that you are perfect exactly the way God made you. Because we're getting wokeness out of our schools and out of our military, and it's already out, and it's out of our society. We don't want it. Wokeness is trouble. Wokeness is bad. It's gone. It's gone. And we feel so much better for it, don't we? Don't we feel better? Our service members won't be activists and ideologues. They will be fighters and warriors. They will fight for our country. And Pete, congratulations. Secretary of Defense, congratulations. And he's not big into the woke movement, I can tell you. I know him well. I am pleased to report that in January, the U.S. Army had its single best recruiting month in 15 years, and that all armed services are having among the best recruiting results ever in the history of our services. What a difference. And you know, it was just a few months ago where the results were exactly the opposite. We couldn't recruit anywhere. We couldn't recruit. Now we're having the best results just about that we've ever had. What a tremendous turnaround. It's really a beautiful thing to see. People love our country again. It's very simple. They love our country, and they love being in our military again. So it's a great thing, and thank you very much. Great job. Thank you. We're joined tonight by a young man, Jason Hartley, who knows the weight of that call of duty. Jason's father, grandfather, and great-grandfather all wore the uniform. Jason tragically lost his dad, who was also a Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputy when he was just a boy, and now he wants to carry on the family legacy of service. Jason is a senior in high school, a six-letter varsity athlete, a really good athlete, they say, a brilliant student with a 4.46, that's good, GPA. And his greatest dream is to attend the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. And Jason, that's a very big deal getting in. That's a hard one to get into. But I'm pleased to inform you that your application has been accepted. You will soon be joining the Corps of Cadets. Thank you. Jason, you're going to be on the long gray line, Jason. As Commander-in-Chief, my focus is on building the most powerful military of the future. As a first step, I'm asking Congress to fund a state-of-the-art Golden Dome missile defense shield to protect our homeland, all made in the USA. And Ronald Reagan wanted to do it long ago, but the technology just wasn't there, not even close. But now we have the technology. It's incredible, actually. And other places, they have it. Israel has it. Other places have it. And the United States should have it too, right, Tim, right? They should have it too. So I want to thank you. But it's a very, very important. This is a very dangerous world. We should have it. We want to be protected, and we're going to protect our citizens like never before. To boost our defense industrial base, we are also going to resurrect the American shipbuilding industry, including commercial shipbuilding and military shipbuilding. And for that purpose, I am announcing tonight that we will create a new Office of Shipbuilding in the White House and offer special tax incentives to bring this industry home to America where it belongs. We used to make so many ships. We don't make them anymore very much, but we're going to make them very fast, very soon. It will have a huge impact. To further enhance our national security, my administration will be reclaiming the Panama Canal, and we've already started doing it. Just today, a large American company announced they are buying both ports around the Panama Canal and lots of other things having to do with the Panama Canal and a couple of other canals. The Panama Canal was built by Americans for Americans, not for others, but others could use it. But it was built at tremendous cost of American blood and treasure. 38,000 workers died building the Panama Canal. They died of malaria. They died of snake bites and mosquitoes. Not a nice place to work. They paid them very highly to go there, knowing there was a 25% chance that they would die. The most expensive project also that was ever built in our country's history, if you bring it up to modern day costs. It was given away by the Carter administration for $1, but that agreement has been violated very severely. We didn't give it to China. We gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back. And we have Marco Rubio in charge. Good luck, Marco. Now, we know who to blame if anything goes wrong. Marco's been amazing, and he's going to do a great job. Think of it. He got 100 votes. You know, he was approved with actually 99, but the 100th was this gentleman, and I feel very certain. So let's assume he got 100 votes. And I'm either very, very happy about that or I'm very concerned about it. But he's already proven. I mean, he's a great gentleman. He's respected by everybody, and we appreciate you voting for Marco. He's going to do a fantastic job. Thank you. Thank you. He's doing a great job. Great job. And I also have a message tonight for the incredible people of Greenland. We strongly support your right to determine your own future. And if you choose, we welcome you into the United States of America. We need Greenland for national security and even international security, and we're working with everybody involved to try and get it. But we need it really for international world security, and I think we're going to get it. One way or the other, we're going to get it. We will keep you safe. We will make you rich, and together we will take Greenland to heights like you have never thought possible before. It's a very small population, but very, very large piece of land and very, very important for military security. America is once again standing strong against the forces of radical Islamic terrorism. 3.5 years ago, ISIS terrorists killed 13 American service members and countless others in the Abbey Gate bombing during the disastrous and incompetent withdrawal from Afghanistan. Not that they were withdrawing, it was the way they withdrew. Perhaps the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. Tonight, I am pleased to announce that we have just apprehended the top terrorist responsible for that atrocity, and he is right now on his way here to face the swift sword of American justice. And I want to thank especially the government of Pakistan for helping arrest this monster. This was a very momentous day for those 13 families who I actually got to know very well, most of them, whose children were murdered, and the many people that were so badly, over 42 people, so badly injured on that fateful day in Afghanistan. What a horrible day. Such incompetence was shown. That when Putin saw what happened, I guess he said, wow, maybe this is my chance. That's how bad it was. Should have never happened. Grossly incompetent people. I spoke to many of the parents and loved ones, and they're all in our hearts tonight. Just spoke to them on the phone. We had a big call. Every one of them called, and everybody was on the line, and They did nothing but cry with happiness. They were very happy, as happy as you can be under those circumstances. Their child, brother, sister, son, daughter was killed for no reason whatsoever. In the Middle East, we're bringing back our hostages from Gaza. In my first term, we achieved one of the most groundbreaking peace agreements in generations, the Abraham Accords. And now we're going to build on that foundation to create a more peaceful and prosperous future for the entire region. A lot of things are happening in the Middle East. People have been talking about that so much lately with everything going on with Ukraine and Russia. But a lot of things are happening in the Middle East. It's a rough neighborhood, actually. I'm also working tirelessly to end the savage conflict in Ukraine. Millions of Ukrainians and Russians have been needlessly killed or wounded in this horrific and brutal conflict with no end in sight. The United States has sent hundreds of billions of dollars to support Ukraine's defense with no security, with no anything. Do you want to keep it going for another 5 years? Yeah, you would say Pocahontas says yes. $2,000 people are being killed every single week. More than that. They're Russian young people. They're Ukrainian young people. They're not Americans. But I want it to stop. Meanwhile, Europe has sadly spent more money buying Russian oil and gas than they have spent on defending Ukraine, by far. Think of that. They've spent more buying Russian oil and gas than they have defending. And we've spent perhaps $350 billion, like taking candy from a baby. That's what happened. And they've spent $100 billion. What a difference that is. And we have an ocean separating us, and they don't. But we're getting along very well with them, and lots of good things are happening. Biden has authorized more money in this fight than Europe has spent by billions and billions of dollars. It's hard to believe that they wouldn't have stopped it and said, at some point, come on, let's equalize. You got to be equal to us. But that didn't happen. Earlier today, I received an important letter from President Zelensky of Ukraine. The letter reads, Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible to bring lasting peace closer. Nobody wants peace more than the Ukrainians, he said. My team and I stand ready to work under President Trump's strong leadership to get a peace that lasts. We do really value how much America has done to help Ukraine maintain its sovereignty and independence. Regarding the agreement on minerals and security, Ukraine is ready to sign it at any time that is convenient for you. I appreciate that he sent this letter, just got it a little while ago. Simultaneously, we've had serious discussions with Russia and have received strong signals that they are ready for peace. Wouldn't that be beautiful? Wouldn't that be beautiful? Wouldn't that be beautiful? It's time to stop this madness. It's time to halt the killing. It's time to end this senseless war. If you want to end wars, you have to talk to both sides. Nearly 4 years ago, amid rising tensions, a history teacher named Mark Fogel was detained in Russia and sentenced to 14 years in a penal colony. Rough stuff. The previous administration barely lifted a finger to help him. They knew he was innocent, but they had no idea where to begin. But last summer, I promised his 95-year-old mother, Malphine, that we would bring her boy safely back home. After 22 days in office, I did just that, and they are here tonight. To Mark and his great mom, we are delighted to have you safe and sound and with us. As fate would have it, Mark Fogel was born in a small rural town in Butler, Pennsylvania. Have you heard of it? Where his mother has lived for the past 78 years. I just happened to go there last July 13th for a rally. That was not pleasant. And that is where I met his beautiful mom right before I walked onto that stage. And I told her I would not forget what she said about her son. And I never did I? Never forgot. Less than 10 minutes later, at that same rally, gunfire rang out, and a sick and deranged assassin unloaded 8 bullets from his sniper's perch into a crowd of many thousands of people. My life was saved by a fraction of an inch, but some were not so lucky. Corey Comparator was a firefighter, a veteran, a Christian, a husband, a devoted father, and above all, a protector. When the sound of gunshots pierced the air, it was a horrible sound. Corey knew instantly what it was and what to do. He threw himself on top of his wife and daughters and shielded them from the bullets with his own body. Corey was hit really hard. You know the story from there. He sacrificed his life to save theirs. 2 others, very fine people, were also seriously hit. But thankfully, with the help of 2 great country doctors, we thought they were gone and they were saved. So those doctors had great talent. We're joined by Corey's wife, Helen, who was his high school sweetheart, and their 2 beloved daughters, Allison and Kaylee. Thank you. To Helen, Allison, and Kaylee, Corey is looking down on his 3 beautiful ladies right now, and he is cheering you on. He loves you. He is cheering you on. Corey was taken from us much too soon, but his destiny was to leave us all with a shining example of the selfless devotion of a true American patriot. It was love like Corey's that built our country, and it's love like Corey's that is going to make our country more majestic than ever before. I believe that my life was saved that day in Butler for a very good reason. I was saved by God to make America great again. I believe that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. From the patriots of Lexington and Concord to the heroes of Gettysburg and Normandy, from the warriors who crossed the Delaware to the trailblazers who climbed the Rockies, and from the legends who soared at Kitty Hawk to the astronauts who touched the moon, Americans have always been the people who defied all odds, transcended all dangers, made the most extraordinary sacrifices, and did whatever it took to defend our children, our country, and our freedom. And as we have seen in this chamber tonight, that same strength, faith, love, and spirit is still alive and thriving in the hearts of the American people. Despite the best efforts of those who would try to censor us, silence us, break us, destroy us, Americans are today a proud, free, sovereign, and independent nation that will always be free, and we will fight for it till death. We will never let anything happen to our beloved country, because we are a country of doers, dreamers, fighters, and survivors. Our ancestors crossed a vast ocean, strode into the unknown wilderness, and carved their fortunes from the rock and soil of a perilous and very dangerous frontier. They chased our destiny across a boundless continent. They built the railroads, laid the highways, and graced the world with American marvels like the Empire State Building, the mighty Hoover Dam, and the towering Golden Gate Bridge. They lit the world with electricity, broke free of the force of gravity, fired up the engines of American industry, vanquished the communists, fascists, and Marxists all over the world, and gave us countless modern wonders sculptured out of iron, glass, and steel. We stand on the shoulders of these pioneers who won and built the modern age, these workers who poured their sweat into the skylines of our cities, these warriors who shed their blood on fields of battle and gave everything they had for our rights and for our freedom. Now it is our time to take up the righteous cause of American liberty, and it is our turn to take America's destiny into our own hands and begin the most thrilling days in the history of our country. This will be our greatest era. With God's help, over the next 4 years, we are going to lead this nation even higher, and we are going to forge the freest, most advanced, most dynamic, and most dominant civilization ever to exist on the face of this earth. We are going to create the highest quality of life, build the safest and wealthiest and healthiest and most vital communities anywhere in the world. We are going to conquer the vast frontiers of science, and we are going to lead humanity into space and plant the American flag on the planet Mars and even far beyond. And through it all, we are going to rediscover the unstoppable power of the American spirit. And we are going to renew unlimited promise of the American dream. Every single day, we will stand up and we will fight, fight, fight for the country our citizens believe in and for the country our people deserve. My fellow Americans, get ready for an incredible future, because the golden age of America has only just begun. It will be like nothing that has ever been seen before. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
Bring it home, bring it home.
Well, there it is. There it is. Donald Trump's first speech. Donald Trump's first speech to Congress for this term, our 27th President of the United States. Or 47th. What did I say? 27th? It's late, and that was very long. It was, I mean, we saw another first. I mean, I keep saying this almost every day. Well, I haven't seen that one before. Never seen anybody removed from what is basically a State of the Union address. But Al Green, the Congressman Al Green, was kicked out. Do we have that clip real quick? I mean, it's just kind of fun to watch it again.
I'm willing to suffer whatever punishment is available to me. I didn't say to anyone, don't punish me. I've said I'll accept the punishment, but it's worth it to let people know that there are some of us who are going to stand up against this president's desire to cut Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security.
Now, yeah, I know. That's the exact opposite of what he was saying, but it was so bizarre to see that happen, but no more bizarre than his opinion, what he just saw. There was a moment with J.D. Vance caught on a hot mic. Do we have this? This was right before.
By the way, I think the speech is going to be great, but I don't know how you do this for 90 minutes.
The hardest thing was doing it during Biden, when the speech was a stupid campaign speech.
Okay.
He tried to lower that mic.
Mike Johnson realized in the middle of his comment that it was a hot mic. That's classic.
Just tremendous. I don't know how they did it either. I mean, there was more up and down than Lily Phillips saw.
Oh, no.
Maybe.
I liked it. I like that. I
don't know anyone else. That was good. I mean, it's late at night. I mean, that's okay.
Glenn Beck raw, Glenn Beck after hours.
And Liz and I, we just look at each other, shake our head, pretend like it didn't happen.
All right.
And the speech, by the way.
Yeah. What do you think of the speech?
Oh, I thought the speech was awesome. I thought you could tell, looking at Donald Trump, I'm just leaving that one in the way.
Go ahead. It's all right. We're 12.
You can tell that Donald Trump is a man who has been targeted for assassination twice.
Yeah.
That he has been indicted unfairly by those weaponizing the power of government against citizens because they happen to disagree with the deep state. That he has been convicted and forced to take a mugshot. This man was in command. He was untriggered by these ridiculous, silly people like Al Green. I mean, he looks like a homeless man with a cane thrown out. Democrats are so desperate. The reason that Al Green stood up like that, I mean, he looks petty, petulant, like a child throwing a tantrum, immature, stupid. The reason he did that is Democrats are so insecure about the American people hearing what Trump is doing that they're willing to look stupid to try to prevent you from hearing the truth. It's remarkable.
And it's amazing how they've switched places in a way. Donald Trump was reacting because he didn't have, I don't think he had the confidence because he was under attack and the only people he could trust around him were his family. And so I think he lost his mojo and always attacking. He blows it off now and now they're attacking.
Yeah.
They don't have their mojo. They don't know who they are anymore.
That's why they look so silly. They look like dorks. That's the nicest thing I can say with their stupid little signs. Al Green, he's probably going to raise some money by the end of the night, honestly, doing what he did. So maybe it's an effective strategy in that sense. This is basically just a meme template for all of us with the little sign up there, an opportunity to make fun of them. They didn't look good. The fact that they could not even muster the courage to clap, to honor the women who had been murdered by illegal aliens. They couldn't clap for the little kid who was diagnosed with brain cancer.
That was amazing.
I mean, it's like they said, okay, let's get an old homeless looking man to shake his cane at the president.
Yeah.
Let's wear pink, raise signs, refuse to clap for the brain cancer patient, and hope that it works on the American people. I'm not complaining. I'm just describing the choices. It was a choice the Democrats made.
It was interesting that he started by saying that.
Yes.
You people, well, I could do anything, and you will not clap. Just watch.
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
I loved that, actually. I loved that.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, I'm telling you, the guy could have been a comedian.
Oh,
he has the best comedic timing. Oh, he is so good. Steve.
I mean, I thought it was very on brand that the Democrats had a guy try to disrupt the president's speech, shaking his cane. Thought that was very on brand. I thought it was also very on brand. They couldn't clap all night long until a foreign country was mentioned. I think that was also very on brand. I thought the speech, the line of the night, and there were many great lines, but I thought the line of the night was, to the children of America, you are perfect the way God made you.
Yeah.
No
And I
Democrat clapped for that.
and nobody on the
powerful.
other side clapped. And I just think you saw in that chamber, Glenn, just two cultures that, again, they just don't have anything in common. The only thing they have in common is a currency. I just don't think that this is a long term. And I say this as, you know, we are going to celebrate the 1 year birthday of the fourth generation of our family now. Our granddaughter turns 1 this weekend, Autumn.
Awesome.
So shout out for her. And I say this with all the hope of a grandfather. Okay, we aren't going to live like this long term. You cannot have a relationship of no human endeavor can last without having no fundamental shared values whatsoever. And this is a worldview steel cage match. 2 worldviews have entered. Only one is coming out. All right, and we cannot coexist with this. They will not coexist with us, even if we wanted them to. They've made that very clear on every possible front that we have to defeat what the current Democratic Party's constructed as has to be just thoroughly defeated in ways that, like, previous generations made it. I know it sounds weird today. People used to be able to run for office like openly as Klansmen.
Yes.
Sounds weird now.
Yeah.
Okay. But they used to just be
Democrats
openly and be Klansmen.
Right.
Okay. And this iteration of the Democratic Party has to be historically, undeniably defeated so that the things that they stand for and are talking about, no one would just dare talk about them in public, even if they believe them ever again, because you cannot share a country with this.
All right. Let me just say one more thing that I found disturbing. There was only one line that I found disturbing. Anybody know what it might have been?
Your Lily Phillips line?
No, okay. Greenland. Greenland. We're gonna work with you. We want you. Blah blah blah, and we will have you one way or another. We will have Greenland. That sounded like Joe Biden. The Nord Stream pipeline is not going to be functioning if they don't make this deal. Believe me, it won't exist.
I couldn't tell if he was saying we're going to get Greenland one way or another, or we're going to have national security one way or another.
I'll have to go back and look at it. I took it as Greenland, and I found that really a little frightening myself. Let me go to Chris Bedford. He is inside the Capitol. Chris, you've been standing on those marble floors for 4 hours, it seems. What is the mood there, and what have you heard?
So just outside the chamber, you could take the subway to the Capitol chamber from here, or it's just around the corner. But even in these marble halls, the place was shaking. I mean, you could feel it, and it was just ahead of where the TV, where we were watching, was actually coming through. So you'd hear these thunderous boos at first, and that whole commotion, or you'd hear the thunderous applause moments before things actually happened, and you could feel it, which is also, I mean, it's really cool. It's like the difference between watching fireworks on TV and actually feeling them in your chest. But I got to tell you, throughout this speech, I had to rewrite my whole Beltway brief newsletter for the morning to the evolution of a person we saw at the podium tonight, Donald Trump, who was a well-known, verifiable American celebrity when he first really seriously ran for office in 2016. And I remember the whispers on the campaign trail from the reporters that this was someone who hadn't proven himself as a politician. He was a germaphobe. Could he kiss babies? Could he do the things that you had to do? Could he make people feel comfortable and natural? And the first glimpses I got that this guy was a legitimate politician was the confidence with which he walked into Iowa, rooms filled with bikers in their Vietnam War vests and there with their families. He would walk in and fit right in with them, and that was an early glimpse. But then in Manchester, New Hampshire, the way I saw him interacting with children, interacting with tables when I first met him, the way I saw him talking to makeup women who were people who were behind the scenes when the cameras weren't on, I recognized that this guy was a politician. And over those first 4 years in office, he painted a grim picture in his first speech, a big speech, his first speech as president, American carnage. And he sometimes went back and forth. He would, like you were just talking about, he could get sucked into the fights. You could find one of those tattooed bikers in a bar who had a Donald Trump loves me and my mother never did tattooed on him. And he would say, hey, could you tone down the tweets a little bit? Because Americans, they still wanted someone to act a little presidential, even though they loved what he was doing. This new iteration of Donald Trump is America's orator-in-chief. He can go seamlessly from uplifting the American spirit and including those among us who are small and may not be known, or little boys who want to be police officers. He can go into making fun of his opposition right there, teasing them right to their faces without looking childish the way that the Democrats did. And then he could pull it back all together. And you saw glimpses of this in Normandy in 2019. And you saw it also in the White House in the Capitol at his second inauguration. But tonight really clinches the deal of someone who came before us an entertainer, became a great politician, and is now one of the great orators and statesmen, I think, on the world stage.
Thank you so much. I appreciate all your hard work in Washington, and you even going. I mean, I hope you get battle pay for being in Washington, D.C. Let me toss it into stage two. I believe we have Matthew Peterson, our Blaze editor-in-chief, and also Jill Savage. What did you guys take from this?
Well, I think what what Chris is saying is really important. I mean, the trajectory from American carnage to painting a picture of the golden age is Donald Trump's trajectory. This is part of the greatest comeback in American history, and I would say that, Glenn, what we saw tonight was a litany of things that, if you hadn't been paying attention, that many people haven't even heard of. Right? For those who are paying attention, for those who watch the mandate, I mean, this is what we look at every day at the Blaze. But for a lot of people, you can't collect all these in a basket because most mainstream media won't give it to you that way. So Trump is a master of rhetoric in the digital age. They used to say that Obama was the first Twitter president because he had an aide that would put out canned remarks when Twitter came out. But everyone in the world knows who the actual first Twitter president was. And now in the age of X, Trump reigns supreme. So what you had here was sort of him summarizing and bringing together all of the things that he had done, all of the themes, all of the rhetorical themes that are very important and purposeful and pointing towards the future into one big, beautiful speech.
Jill, maybe it's just me because, we all live this. We eat this and drink this and breathe this all day, every day. And so to me, it was kind of like, okay, I know what you did. I don't know if the American people felt that way, because I hear all the time, I can't keep up. I don't even know what he did.
Well, that's what we were promised, right? I'm almost surprised that Trump didn't actually have executive orders to go out there and sign. He's been signing so many, so often. He could have used this opportunity to go sign a few more executive orders. But I'm with you, Glenn. I think that if you're paying attention every single day, you've heard a lot of this stuff. I don't think that he really pushed the narrative forward that much. But if you're just sitting back and an average American and you have a busy life, it is good to sit down and be reminded that this is the way that he wants the country to go. This is the vision that he has. And it was wrapped up, like he said, in one big, beautiful speech there. But I look at this and I just look at the fact that he said, I was saved by God to make America great again, that he comes back to that because I think that he truly believes that. And I think this is the difference between Trump 1.0 and Trump 2.0, is he now knows that there is an end to his life at some point in time. He now believes that he is still on this earth to make a difference while he still can. And I think that is such a powerful thing. And now you see him out there and he's sharing the spotlight, right? He's forgiving people. Elon Musk is out there. J.D. Vance has the interaction that he has with Zelensky. Trump 1.0. I don't think would have allowed somebody else to grab the spotlight.
Exactly right. Yeah, you're exactly right. And you notice he had a the one thing that made Ronald Reagan so effective was, in some ways, he was very charming and he would make fun of his opponents, but it was never, I mean, you know, Pocahontas was probably not real presidential, but I enjoyed it. I don't think Pocahontas enjoyed it. But, you know, he several times made a comment that wasn't mean, wasn't hurtful, but just kind of dismissed them. It was quite amazing. Did you follow? Are there any more comments?
There absolutely are. We had a lot of fun with the subscribers in the chat tonight. And so we asked them what their biggest takeaways were from the speech. And Valerie Mendilovich came back and said, how can the president promise lower prices without causing extreme hardship, trying to suck in all the money the Biden administration printed? And Glenn, this is something that we were actually talking about in the hallways there before we all sat down today is how is he actually going to be able to pull this off?
Yeah, it's going to be it's going to be very difficult. Nobody's ever done it before, ever. No country has ever reversed this process. This has always been the point of death spiral. But I believe if anyone could pull it off, he and his team could. But it's going to be, you know, he said it a couple of times tonight. We have some pain ahead of us. It's going to be hard. Just stay with me. It's going to be hard.
The next question comes from Ramona Bidlack. It says, why can't the Democrats clap for anything? They must be anti-American, and this breaks my heart. When you can't clap for a kid that has cancer, you guys, I think that we've lost some of the just decent morality in this country.
I agree. I don't know how they didn't stand, you know, even, you know, you had the Supreme Court. They can't applaud. The Joint Chiefs, they can't applaud. But at certain appropriate times, they stood. They didn't applaud. It wasn't an endorsement. They stood out of respect. You don't have to respect the president. You do have to respect the office and, quite honestly, that chamber, I think, and it was greatly disaffected.
Don't you think that there was something different tonight about their performative, ridiculous stuff? I mean, I really felt this. I mean, you remember Pelosi like tearing up the document and all that. Yeah. It still had some energy to it, right? It was sort of wow. You know, you felt wow. There's a power here. This time. With the stupid signs and everything else, it felt like the energy was completely drained. It fell flat.
They have become a parody of themselves. They overplayed their hand, they overstayed their welcome, and it's a clown show now. Guys, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Before we sign off tonight, I want to give you a little sneak peek at a couple of things that are coming. First of all, this Thursday, my interview with Kid Rock. I'm going to be spending some time with him tomorrow.
2 peas in a pod.
Two peas in a pod.
Yep. I would pay real money.
I can't wait to see this.
It's going to be, honestly, I've been thinking about it all day.
Like a train that rolls hard, letting off much steam, and the cut-off flannels and the dusty jeans, baby?
Yeah, well, yeah, that too. No, I feel like I'm going to go to my cafeteria in school, and I'm going to be very awkward, and then in the end, I get beat up.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it just doesn't work. Anyway, now, coming next Wednesday is a special edition of my Wednesday night program right here on BlazeTV, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. We've talked about this for years. You knew it was bad, but it was nothing to what we have found. We had a whistleblower give us some documents that we're going to reveal next week. I'm going to introduce you to a U.S. military general that was a secret mole in the Biden administration's DEI push to our armed forces. And it is truly insane. I'm also going to reveal to you for the first time ever a leaked document from NASA. Would progressives spend $100 billion and sacrifice their almighty God of science for cultural Marxism? Yes, they would. And it's nuts. I'm going to take you there through the entire history of how this dangerous ideology landed in America. I'm going to show you how Obama weaponized it, how Joe Biden used COVID to push it further, and just how bad it was when it was packaged and sold to our entire country, and not just here on this planet. Watch.
Biden's executive orders based around DEI.
Biden's DEI initiatives.
We all knew it was bad.
I'll be reaffirming the federal government's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion.
But we didn't know the terrifying steps our government was willing to take to make their DEI dreams your reality.
The FAA decided that the hiring pool of potential air traffic controllers was too white.
We didn't know until now. Coming soon in a Glenn TV exclusive, I'll give you the never-before-seen inside look at just how far the far left was planning to take DEI. Here's a hint.
We choose to go to the moon.
They wanted to land diversity, equity, and inclusion on the moon. The far left's sinister moves will be revealed yet again.
This is what I've reported on a lot of crazy things. This one is movie crazy. It's movie crazy. I'm going to give Stu the last word here.
Oh, well, I think it's one of those situations where I think you can make a real argument that we don't need this speech in the president's first term. Like, he made a really big speech 6 weeks ago about all the things he wanted to do. In this case, you had to have it, though, right? Like, with him and all the stuff that's happened, just him going through that was really important for the American people to hear.
Yeah.
And I thought he did a good job. He hit all the big points, and it's a really fast start to the administration, and I think he did a really good job laying out what he has done, and I hope we're going to see more of what he's going to do in the coming weeks.
And we'll have more on this tomorrow on all of the Blaze programs, and we'll start early with Pat Gray, and then with my program at 9 a.m. Eastern. If you're watching us right now, you already know we are living in a turning point moment for America. We haven't won the war. This is going to be a long, long battle. It's going to go longer than 4 years. The fight for truth, the fight for freedom, for the future of our country, for our children. It's happening right now. And if you want to stay in the fight with us, there's one place to do it, and that is Blaze Media. Join us, will you? If you haven't signed up yet, we're celebrating President Trump, our 47th president, by giving you $47 off BlazeTV Plus subscription. You go right now to blaze47.com. Use the promo code 47 right now. Get exclusive, unfiltered, behind-the-scenes content you don't see anywhere else. Get your subscription now and join our community, our family of freedom, as we dive even deeper into what Trump's speech means for the battle ahead. While the mainstream media pushes their lies and silences voices like ours, the tables have turned. Blaze Media is one place where the truth is never censored. So don't wait. Go to blaze47.com right now. Use the promo code 47. Stay in the fight. We're just getting started, and we will see you tomorrow. From Dallas, good night, America. We're Americans. There's something different about us. Most people don't actually know what they're fighting against. The Declaration of Independence is our mission statement. That's what we're trying to build.
The golden age of America begins right now.
People are, in fact, building a new American way of life for the 21st century. But the problem is, no one is talking about it.
Align your lifestyle with your beliefs.
Sorry, it's just so addicting.
Pro-humanity, pro-people, pro-digital sovereignty, pro-crypto. I mean, we're pro-tech in many ways, not all tech. We love technology.
Documentaries that pursue truth.
Blaze Originals.
Blaze Originals.
Blaze Originals. Blaze Originals.
The Dallas Mavericks have traded Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers for Anthony Davis. It doesn't make sense. And that's why you need this show, because I'm going to make sense of it.
The blaze is named after the burning bush that Moses saw. It was a fire that burned but did not consume. However, that fire would consume anything that wasn't true and wasn't in line with universal truth. That's why I call it the blaze.